Delegates, brothers and sisters, we are in for a special treat. I want to introduce to you our Prime Minister, my Prime Minister, if I'm allowed back in the country, Antonio, I was about to call him by his nickname, but Prime Minister Albanese is an incredible man. He's a decent Australian. When I was asked about what yeah, come on, give him a big hand. When I was asked about his election by the international press back in May, it's the height of compliment to say that one thing Australia can know, one thing the world can know, is that chair is again being sat in by a decent human being. A man who not only knows what it's like to grow up working class, who was the son of a single mother, a beautiful woman who actually raised our Prime Minister to be the man he is today. Yeah, absolutely. He comes from the suburbs of Sydney. He understands migrant Australia. And remember, we introduced you to the multicultural nature of Australia just in the opening ceremony a few days ago. He actually also understands the deep, ancient traditions of our Indigenous culture. And since May, this Prime Minister, I must say, of whom we're very proud, has not only put the Indigenous question back on the table, he's committed to having a voice for Indigenous Parliament that will be for Indigenous people that will be listened to by our Parliament, so they can actually speak to the Parliament about the issues that matter. He's committed to the Uluru Statement you heard Senator Pat Dodson talk about, a statement from the heart. And for that, because we need to heal our country, I say to him, thank you, Prime Minister Albanese. But that's just one thing. That's just one thing. Since May, guess what? He's championed an increase in the minimum wage because he knows that working people need to live with dignity. He's put 6 months, took us 10 years to get 26 weeks, 18 weeks, thank you, Michelle. 6 months of paid parental leave for Australians legislated. He's legislated for 10 days of family and domestic violence leave, paid leave for every Australian. And now he's championing a bill through Parliament that is extraordinary. We've argued this week about the new social contract. Well, just think on top of those other things, what he's actually got is a bill in the Parliament that will advance the cause of gender equality, will allow women to bargain for equal pay, and indeed will ask employers to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. Extraordinary. But more than that, put collective bargaining, strengthen collective bargaining with multi-employer bargaining back on the table. This is extraordinary. You all know that indeed Labor income share globally has gone down like a roller coaster, despite the wealth of nations trebling, quadrupling, in some countries up to 7 times what it was just a few decades ago. And yet, Labor has not shared in productivity or profits. And that's why our economies in large part are so vulnerable. Our people are vulnerable, struggling to make ends meet. Remember, 77% of people said that their income was stagnating or going backwards. Here's a Prime Minister who understands that for people to live with dignity, for the economy to have resilience, we need to share our prosperity. I am so proud to introduce a man who's been a friend for a very long time of the trade union movement of ours, and indeed now our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon. And I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. I pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and on behalf of the government that I'm proud to lead, I recommit to the implementation of the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full, including a constitutionally enshrined voice to our national parliament. Well, General Secretary Sharon Burrow, President Ayuba Wabba, distinguished guests, delegates, friends and fellow trade union members, I am so pleased to be back home in Australia and delighted to be with all of you here this morning in this great city of Melbourne. Not far from this room, just across the road from the mighty Victorian Trades Hall, stands a humble monument honouring the 8 Hours movement. In 1856, stonemasons working on the new Melbourne University down tools and marched alongside fellow construction workers to the steps of Victorian Parliament to demand an 8-hour working day, a struggle that would see them become one of the first workforces in the world to win this right. Melbourne is indeed a fitting place to bring together unions and workers' representatives from all over the world. But the truth is, in modern Australia, there are monuments to trade unions everywhere you look. Monuments that stand as an essential part of people's everyday lives. Not buildings is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the strong minimum wage that's been fought for, equal pay for women, sick leave and annual leave and parental leave, compensation for workplace injuries and protection against injury with stronger health and safety laws, universal retirement savings through our superannuation system, universal health care, penalty rates for weekend work, indeed the weekend itself. All of these rights and protections, all of these improvements in people's lives and living standards are ongoing tribute to the power and the value of union advocacy. All of these reforms also speak for the success of unions in negotiating with governments, working in existing structures and systems to drive change, working constructively with reforming governments to build a better future. I am proud to lead an Australian Labor government that respects and celebrates the extraordinary contribution that the trade union movement has made to the strength of our modern economy and the health of our social democracy. Hear, hear. Now, today we celebrate 6 months in office to the day since the 21st of May. And since we were elected, we've already worked alongside the union movement to deliver the real change that Australians voted for. One of our first acts was securing a real increase in the minimum wage for the heroes of the pandemic. And we backed a 15% pay rise for our undervalued and underpaid aged care workforce. I also recognise that one of the great strengths of the union movement is that it's always looked outwards. Australian unions have looked beyond these shores for inspiration, for wisdom, for examples, for guidance on the next steps. And they've looked out across the world to help people in other nations in need of strength and solidarity. At their best, unions have always been prepared to stand up for the principle that union values should be universal values, that fairness and equality and dignity and safety should be the right of workers everywhere. That's the global solidarity, the common respect, the shared humanity that binds us all. It's why unions around the world have stood up for democracy and continue to do so. It's why you have helped lead the campaign to improve conditions and rights in Qatar. And it's the principle that underpins the ongoing importance of the work you do to raise the ambitions of the International Labour Organisation. I want to congratulate you on the work that you did to enshrine occupational health and safety as the ILO's fifth fundamental principle. And I'm very pleased that the Australian government could contribute to those negotiations and that Michelle O'Neill was one of the workers' representatives, standing up for the rights of every worker everywhere to come home safe at the end of the day. I also applaud the leadership of the ITUC in driving ILO Convention 190, a zero-tolerance approach to violence and harassment. And I want to particularly acknowledge the efforts of the ACTU and their advocacy for this convention to be adopted here in Australia. I'm proud to say that our government has made action on equality at work and protection from harassment a national priority from day one. We are implementing new protections against sexual harassment, including a positive duty for employers to protect their staff. And last month, Parliament passed our laws for 10 days paid family and domestic violence leave to be part of the national employment standards, because no woman should ever have to choose between her job and her safety. And today I'm very pleased to announce that the Labor government I lead will table in the Parliament of Australia ILO Convention 190, preventing harassment and violence in the workplace. This is the first formal step towards Australia ratifying this important convention, a statement from our nation affirming the right of every person to a work culture based on mutual respect and dignity, and the right to a work environment free from the threat of violence or harassment. Because whenever we talk about safety in the workplace, that must include the right of every worker to be safe from sexual harassment. Our government views this as a commitment to equality, to safety, but also as an important economic reform, because we know that the full and equal participation of women in the economy is our nation's greatest untapped resource. Australia is signatory to some 58 ILO conventions. Last month, as Prime Minister, I had the honour of ratifying the most recent one, ILO Convention 138, preventing the use of child labour. For Australia, being a signatory is always an act of substance, not symbolism, because the Fair Work Act, the legislative foundation of our industrial relations framework, takes one of its aims giving effect to Australia's international labour obligations. So when you embark on those advocacy campaigns, you should know that your efforts to make a real and lasting difference to improving working conditions for all Australians. Friends, this Congress gives us an opportunity to celebrate a tradition of fairness and social justice and representing the best interests of the working people who power our nation's economic success. And in doing so, we recognise that these rights, these protections and these opportunities are never down to good luck or happy accident or a spontaneous act of generosity. Every centimetre of progress, every degree of every improvement has been earned and fought for through generations of solidarity and sacrifice. And while we will always remember those historic victories, the best and most fitting way to honour the contribution of those who have gone before us is to continue their work, not just defending ground already gained, but carrying the task of progress forward, because there is always much more to do. In a rapidly globalising economy, in a world of work transformed by trade and technology, there are new opportunities for growth and prosperity and flexibility. But there are also new challenges to the rights and dignity and security of working people. And tackling those is a task that we're taking up in the Australian Parliament right now. In the past month, our government has introduced the new protections against sexual harassment, new measures to improve job security, new initiatives to revitalise bargaining, enhance productivity and get wages moving again, and a new focus on closing the gender pay gap. Now, of course, there are those who oppose these changes, those who want to stand in the way of this progress, those who have an ingrained ideological objection to workers being paid fairly for their contribution, who somehow believe that the only way to grow the economy is to limit opportunity and diminish security. We know there are always those who say that any improvement in workers' pay, any improvement in the status quo, will see the sky fall in. They say it every time, and they are wrong every time. And we will push ahead like we do every time. We know that fairness has to be fought for. We know from our experience that progress has to be earned. Most of all, we know it's worth it. We know the difference that it makes to people's lives is worth it. Friends, the final thing that I wanted to say today is that this 5th World Congress is significant not just because of the important issues that you will discuss and debate, but because it is the last Congress with Sharan Burrow as the leader of this organisation. Sharan Burrow is a great Australian. I am so proud to call her my friend, showing our age here, Sharan, for a very long period of time. For much more than 3 decades, I'll leave it at that. Sharan is a trailblazer. She's a lifelong champion for working people. Sharan, Australians are deeply grateful and enormously proud of the contribution that you have made to the international trade union movement and to the lives of workers everywhere. Congratulations on all you have achieved. Thank you so much for having me here today, giving me this great honour. Have a great Congress. Enjoy Australia.
Delegates, I want to thank our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. I want to thank you, Prime Minister, for making an extraordinary effort to be with us today. We know that wasn't easy and it's greatly appreciated. And I want to acknowledge the respect that it shows, that you've shown for both the Australian Union movement and for our global movement by being with us today. And of course, I also want to acknowledge that extraordinary announcement you just made about introducing this week into a Parliament the process that will see the ratification of C190, which of course is about eliminating violence and harassment at work. But I also want to thank you for never forgetting where you come from, for understanding that your worth as a person is not determined by where you live, by the colour of your skin, by your gender, by the language you speak, by the job you do, or by how much you earn. For respecting that unions at our core are about working people standing together to win a better life and fairness and a better world. For leading a government that promised to deliver wage increases for working people and who is absolutely determined to deliver on that promise. For knowing that having the opportunity to make a real and lasting difference in the lives of working people is rare and fleeting, but will be a defining point of your government and the government that you lead. We know you and we know your determination. We know that you will deliver on the Secure Jobs Better Pay Bill, and it will be delivered into law in the coming few weeks because working people can't wait. Prime Minister, thank you for the commitments you've made to make a difference in the lives of Australian workers. Thank you for understanding what it is that unionism is about. Thank you for backing in what working people need. We know here in Australia we need to see wages lifted. We need a fairer system. We need something that tilts the balance back so that working people can have a go about organising and, as you said, struggling and coming together to win a better deal. We know that here in Australia. We know that around the world. Thank you so much for being with us, and we're with you all the way in the coming couple of weeks. Now, we've asked some of our women delegates to join our Prime Minister up on the stage to celebrate this moment of him being with us. If you could join us now, that would be great. You might not know this, but our Prime Minister is a few things he's famous for. One of them is he's a bit of a selfie aficionado. So we thought we might do a photo. Come on up. Where do we do this?
And around the back, you guys stand on either side.
Oh, that's not right.
Go around the back of the Prime Minister.
Hello. Hey,
Stand
how are you?
again like the wall.
Maybe we should do it over here, Sharon, so we're not behind the left.
Okay. Move over a bit. We standing. Behind the Prime Minister.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was excellent.
Thank you for.
So he has to go.
Thank you. I'm out of here.
Okay. The stage. If you could get off the stage, thank you. Delegates, if you could just take your seats. You need to have two workers with you. Yeah, they need to be with you. They need to be If you could take your seats, thanks, delegates.
Okay, delegates, we're going to have a special event now in solidarity with the ACTU and the fight for the legislation in the Parliament. If you've got your sporting colours, put them on. We want to see you. And now here we go.
Thank you, delegates. Thank you so much for making our Prime Minister so welcome. And we wanted to take an opportunity now to have some solidarity action. And we want this to happen. We need you to join with us this morning in a special solidarity event. And the reason we need you to join with us is because, as you heard from our Prime Minister, this coming 2 weeks is this very important moment in Australian history. It's when we are trying to get through laws in our Parliament that we need to make sure that workers can come together and bargain collectively, bargain fairly across multiple employers, come together and win a better deal. And we all know that's what we need to lift wages. It's so critical for workers in our country and, in fact, around the world. But we have this chance in the coming 2 weeks to win this new law, and we need you to make sure that we send that message. When we talk about it, we talk about Australia needing a pay rise. We talk about getting wages moving. We talk about gender equality and why everybody should have the right to be paid fairly and recognised for the work they do. Why we should be able to bargain together in a way that we can balance up a bit of the power that employers have and use many times to keep workers' wages low. It's a critical bit of law. You heard we've got a government that's committed to doing it, but we want to send a message that the global union movement is with us in this struggle, that we are going to win it and that you are part of that win, that you understand that solidarity is always so critical to win change for working people. So we're going to do something that's a bit of fun, but before we do, I want you to hear from two members of our unions here in Australia. I have with me two delegates, Anusha and Ben, and they're going to speak to you very briefly about why these laws are important. Thanks, Anusha.
Hello, everyone. I am Anusha. So I am working early childhood education sector, more than 15 years as an educator. So, you know, everyone knows now early childhood education sector is in a crisis, huge crisis. The reason educators are getting underpaid, they are working under stress. They're not getting worth, they're getting not recognizing as they worth what they do. So actually, the new proposed law is giving a hope educators to stay in the sector because they can get pay rise and they can get value, proper value what they do. So I am asking for your support, workers like me and many others here, to have fair workplace laws to get paid, wage paid, and then to value and all those things. And then, so, we can work and stay in the sector without any problem. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Anusha, and thanks, Michelle, and welcome everybody here. My name's Ben, and I'm really proud to represent the Australian cabin crew industry today. And what we're excited about these new laws that are hopefully going to make it through are three main important things for my industry. So I'm sure you would have heard about same job, same pay. This is something that is extremely important to the Australian cabin crew industry because you might have, I'm just going to say that a lot of you would have come here on a flight. Even a lot of people in Australia who've flown don't know that the cabin crew on the carts often work for vastly different wages, conditions, and even employers. We think that's just not fair, so we're really supportive of the Secure Jobs Better Pay Bill for that first reason alone. The second reason is that Australian airlines have continued to threaten terminations to the collective agreements of Australian cabin crew to force us to accept lower working conditions and pay, which affects our livelihoods. And this just isn't fair. For those who aren't from our shores, a termination can be compared with a cancellation. So once the expiry date of the agreement is passed, it can be cancelled. And what that means for some of Australia's most experienced aviation safety professionals, cabin crew, it meant a loss of up to 50% of their salary per year. So the terminations clause in this new laws is just going to be a game changer for Australian cabin crew. And thirdly, in our female-dominated industry, we are really supportive of stronger access to flexible working arrangements to access part-time working opportunities, which are limited at the moment, which is crazy because we work in a shift work environment and there's no reason why there can't be more flexible working arrangements. So those are the three main features of this bill and why Australian cabin crew are supportive of it, and we're hoping for your support as well. Thank you very much, everyone.
So thanks, Ben and Anusha. Now I'm going to hand over to Will, who I think is about to appear, and lead you through our action. If you've got some scarves, flags, etc., now's the time to pull them out. I'm going to get mine. Over to you, Will.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning. It's my job to take you through the solidarity action, and to do that, you are going to learn an Australian classic song for sports, but it's all right. You only need to learn the chorus, which is 3 words, because we are a simple people and we like to keep it simple. I'm also going to teach you a small dance. Again, for those of you who are dance challenged, do not stress. It is, again, very simple. Now, the first thing is the chorus. Are you ready? Yes. No, seriously, are you ready? Yes. Yeah, that's better. All right. The first word is come. The first word is come. The second word is on. And the third word is Aussie. All right, so let's put those 3 together if we can. I know it's complicated. Hopefully you've had some coffee. All right, so it goes. Come on, Aussie. Come on, Aussie. Come on, Aussie. Now I'm going to make it slightly more complicated because it actually goes, come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on. Oh, it's beautiful. All right. Oh, you're making me laugh, you're making me cry, you are taking me on a journey. All right, now, I'm going to ask those of you who can stand to please stand. Now, this is extremely complicated, so I want you to watch me do this before you try it. Are you ready? It goes like this. Are we all watching? All eyes? Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on. And I know you're thinking there's more, but there's not. All right? So you can throw yourselves into that with full body enthusiasm, all right? Because remember, we are delivering a message to Australian trade unionists that the global trade union movement is with us in our struggle, and we are delivering a message to those in power that says the world is watching what is happening here. So this time, I want you to do it with the enthusiasm and the passion that says that that is the message you're delivering. I will count you in, and then you will start. Are we ready? Yes. No, seriously, are we ready? Yes. Are we ready? Yes. Are we ready? Yes. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on. All right, stay standing. Nobody sits down until I say. All right? Now, to demonstrate this in its full enthusiasm, I'm going to bring out for you a group that we prepared earlier to do this for you. Now, they are going to do this with the enthusiasm that I expect from every one of you. And I am watching and I can see, and I'm going to make notes on those who do not do this with enthusiasm. All right, so they're going to demonstrate for you now. And then I'm going to explain what's going to happen next, all right? So, are we ready?
Yes. We're ready.
See that? This is what we do as Australian sports mad folk. This is our life captured in one small moment. Are you ready? 2, 3, 4.
Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on.
All right. Now, the way this is going to work is this. There's going to be a little instrumental section at the start where you can just prepare yourself for the great moment of unveiling. Now remember, it does not matter that you are tuneful. It does not matter whether you are coordinated. It matters only that you bring every ounce of trade union enthusiasm to this. All right? So there will be an instrumental. Then we will all do this. I will give you the cue to do that. Then there will be another instrumental, and then we will do that again, and then you can all get on with the incredibly important business that you are doing today. All right. So there's going to be an instrumental. During the instrumental, just to keep yourselves warmed up and in the mood, you might want to do a bit of this, because we like a bit of that. Yeah. Because as trade unionists, we know how to clap, right? All right. So let's get it in.
Come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on.
Come on, Aussie, come on, come on.
Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Oh, come on, Aussie, come on, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on.
And on behalf of the great Australian trade union movement, I thank you for being such good sports. Come on, team.
Sally, Michelle, give them a big hand. These two women leading our Australian men and women to pay justice, to safety in the workplace, to equal pay. Michelle, Sally, we are with you every step of the way. Okay, I think that President Wobber's getting a bit anxious about having lost control of the Congress.
Thank you very much, Michael O'Neill, and the Australian Council of Trade Union. Thank you. Thank you also, colleagues, for the solidarity action.
Do you want to, Ayuba, do you want to come to this one? Ayuba?
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for the solidarity action in support of the Australian Council of Trade Union. Thank you also, Michael O'Neill, President, Australian Council of Trade Union. Thank you, colleagues. So we now return to our agenda for the day, and we are going to start by receiving the report of the Credentials Committee. Let me then invite the chairperson of the Credentials Committee, Liz Schuler, to please present the report of the committee, including the election results.
Thank you, President. And from the Prime Minister Albanese to the dancing, now to credentials. Brothers and sisters, I have the privilege of officially announcing the results of our election yesterday. Before I do so, let me say how proud I am of this organization for the way in which the elections were conducted, with respect and dignity throughout the process. So thank you all. The choice of a new General Secretary was probably the most important decision to take at this Congress. I can now formally announce that out of a total of 90,573,663 voting members, so nearly 91 million voting members, Luca Vicentini received 65,441,861 votes. That woo! That very exciting, very exciting.
Thank you, thank you.
That is 72% of the votes. 23,062,389 votes, or 25% of the votes, were for Kamal Ozkan. Thank you, Kamal. And there were 2,069,413, or 2% abstentions. So thank you, with a lot of respect for Kamal, a strong candidate. We as the Committee on Credentials want to congratulate Luca Vicentini on a clear victory. So Luca, we see here in the front of the room. We congratulate you, and we are so pleased we have a new General Secretary of the ITUC. Thank you. We look forward to working with you. We look forward to it. A few more statistics on attendance. 212 organizations from 126 countries are participating in the Congress. Together, we represent a total membership of 90,663,659 workers. And of the 598 delegates to the Congress, 368 are women. That is 50.84%. So we confirm gender parity. Congratulations, congratulations to everyone. And we have 62 youth delegates among us. That means we hit our target of 10% youth representation as well. So now on to the General Counsel. The Credentials Committee has the constitutional obligation to examine the nominations from the regions for the elections to the General Counsel. Unfortunately, not all regions have reached perfect gender parity. We made serious efforts. We are very, very, very close. We congratulate the Americas and Africa for setting the good example. This is good, this is good. And we call on Europe and Asia Pacific to still try to make the last few changes that would bring the Council in perfect gender balance. So with these comments, the Credentials Committee agrees that the nominations are submitted to Congress for election, and you will find the list of General Counsel members as an annex to our third report, the third Credentials Committee report on the Congress website. So please do check that list, especially if you are a General Counsel member, to make sure that your name is listed. Upon approval of this report, the new General Counsel will convene for a first time at 5 p.m. this afternoon in room Melbourne 1 on the second floor. So General Counsel will meet 5 p.m. today, room Melbourne 1 on the second floor. Okay, so last but not least, the Credentials Committee examined the eligibility of the auditors. We have received 23 nominations for Kasoun Folo, 2 for Matthias Mueller, and 1 each for Musaziro Bachabi, Sherry Cannon, Jean-Bernard Maluka, and Emmanuel Ugboa. Congress needs to elect 3 auditors. So taking all of the nominations in mind and gender balance in mind, we propose now 3 candidates to Congress to elect. Matthias Mueller from the DGB in Germany, Kasoun Folo from CETU in Ethiopia, and Sherry Cannon from the AFL-CIO in the United States. So that completes the report, President Ayuba. We ask Congress to adopt our third report and to endorse the election of Luca Vicentini as the new General Secretary, the list of new General Counsel members, and the nomination of the 3 auditors, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Liz, for that report, and we thank the Credentials Committee for a very good work. Colleagues, delegates, I then move that we approve the report of the Credentials Committee as presented, which includes 1, the election of the General Secretary, to the 3 auditors that have been nominated, and also the constitution of the General Council as proposed by this very important committee. I so move. Can we approve? Approved. Thank you very much. And congratulations for those elected, especially General Secretary, auditors, and also those that will constitute the new General Council. Thank you very much. And thank you once again, Liz, for the very good work of the committee. Thank you very much. I will then go ahead to invite Felix Antony, Chair of the Standing Orders Committee, to present the third report of the committee if they are ready. But if they are not ready, okay, he's ready. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is the third report of the Standing Orders Committee. The Standing Orders Committee received a series of proposed amendments to the draft Congress statement, as well as other proposals for adoption. These fell into 2 broad categories: short specific amendments to various paragraphs in the draft statement, and a longer text proposed either for inclusion in the draft statement or as possible resolutions. Let me say that most of the small amendments that were proposed was basically to strengthen the statement itself. The committee decided to propose to Congress that the substantial majority of the short specific amendments be incorporated into the draft statement. The revised draft has been posted on the Congress website. The document 5CO/5B with the amendments in track changes. The committee is still considering on how to deal with the longer text in a way that does not leave us with a long list of separate resolutions. We hope to be able to put the English versions on the Congress website tonight and translated version early tomorrow morning. The committee also considered proposals received from several affiliates concerning the current violent repression of protests and strikes in Iran against the regime's culpability in the killing of Gina Mahsa Amini. The committee therefore decided to propose the adoption of the solidarity statement with the workers and the people of Iran. A draft solidarity statement is therefore proposed by the committee for adoption. The text of the draft is posted on the Congress website, document 5CO/5B, Roman 2. Chair, I will just quickly read the draft statement on Iran for the benefit of all colleagues. Congress condemns the brutal, murderous repression against the people of Iran by the country's misogynic regime following the killing of Gina Mahsa Amini by its agents. Iranian women, supported by men, have bravely protested across the country for their rights, and unions have held strikes in the face of brutal repression. Hundreds of people have been killed, several protesters have been sentenced to death, and 15,000 have been arrested. The latest wave of repression comes on top of the systematic violation of fundamental rights of Iranian people, including their right to freedom of association, as well as freedom of speech. Iran is consistently ranked as amongst the worst countries in the world for workers' rights in the ITUC Global Rights Index. Several trade unionists are serving lengthy prison sentences simply for standing up for fundamental rights and advancing the interest of working people. The regime has continually engaged in human rights violations against women, religious and ethnic minorities, political activists, and LGBTIQA+ community. Congress demands the release of imprisoned trade unionists and all those detained and imprisoned in blatant violation of international law. Denounces the Iranian government's suppression of women's and girls' fundamental rights and attacks on their lives. Calls on the Iranian authorities to end their violence against women and girls and call on them to respect the rights of women and girls and all Iranians to freedom of association, freedom of expression, bodily autonomy, and security of person. Continues to stand in absolute solidarity with the Iranian workers and the unions in their struggle for workers' rights. Pledges unwaveringly support for the fight of fundamental rights for all. Insists that Iran ratify and fully implement Conventions 87 and 98 and fully respect the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and in particular Article 23. And acknowledges and welcomes the widespread and strong international support from trade unions, other organizations, and the public for the people of Iran. End. The Standing Orders Committee therefore recommends that Congress adopt the revised Congress statement tomorrow and the solidarity statement on Iran now. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair Felix Antony of the Standing Orders Committee for this report. Colleagues, I move that Congress approve the third report of the Standing Order Committee as presented by Felix. I so move. Can we adopt the report? Thank you. Adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you. I now give the floor to our Deputy President, who will then open the floor for continuation of the debate on our Congress statement. You have the floor, Kati.
Good morning, sisters and brothers. It is my honor to start this morning calling on Randy Weingarten, the President of the American Federation of Teachers, AFL-CIO. Welcome.
We're bringing that solidarity action to the United States. I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and paying my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. I also want to honor the memories of those killed today in Colorado at an LGBTQ nightclub by a mass murderer. On this Trans Remembrance Day in the United States, I also want to honor both Sharon and Luca as we change and go from one inspirational leader to the next. So my name is Randy Weingarten. I'm a social studies teacher from Brooklyn, New York, now serving as the president of the 1.7 million member American Federation of Teachers. The first lesson I ever taught as a high school teacher in Brooklyn was on John Locke and how legitimate government needed the consent of the people to protect basic rights and the common good. Locke's social contract centered on life, liberty, and property, and no doubt those will always be the pillars of liberal democracy. But a global labor movement, the one we dream of, the one we will actualize, needs to have a much bolder social contract, one of sustainable future of shared prosperity for all, with worker power, freedom of association and collective bargaining, social equality, and climate justice as its center. And that is what is embedded in the new social contract that we are debating at this World Congress. We know another world is possible, but we also know our vision cannot be won through the prevailing global economic system dominated by oligarchs and multinational corporations. Nor can it be won without fidelity to democracy, human rights, and core freedoms for all. We can not just fight back, but fight forward, standing together as one. That is what the labor movement did with Lula's election in Brazil, and that is what we tried to do in the United States when we defeated the election deniers just this month. It's not going to be easy. Around the world, you have far-right autocrats and theocrats fighting not only the social contract, but basic core freedoms. As we just heard, in Iran, there is a revolution underway against theocracy. Steel workers, bazaar vendors, teachers, higher education workers have been on strike. Dozens of activists and unionists have been jailed. Their slogan of the revolution is, and let's make this trend, women, life, freedom. That same regime that represses the fundamental rights of women and girls arrests and harasses the brave, independent Iranian workers' movement. These are our heroes, and I'm almost done. Sisters and brothers, much has been made by our divisions, but we are unified by a powerful bond, our desire for a better life for ourselves, our families, and our communities. So, let's join the Iranian workers in their fight against repression. Let's support the Ukrainians in their fight against Russian invaders. Let's fight for the demands embodied in this new, bold, and progressive social contract. Solidarity.
Thank you so much, President Weingarten. It is now my honor to call on Brother Shaher Saeed, the PGFTU of Palestine. Woohoo! Shaher, Brother Shaher, I know I saw you earlier. Is he coming?
Good morning, everybody. إخوتي أخواتي أعضاء المؤتمر، الأخت شارون، الأخ الرئيس، النواب المحترمين، في البداية أبارك للأخ لوكا بمناسبة انتخابه أمين عام للاتحاد دون النقابات. أحييكم جميعاً باسم عمالنا وعاملاتنا وشعبنا الفلسطيني والذي لا يزال يرزح تحت حراب الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. إخوتي أخواتي، لقد قدمت الأمين العام تقريراً شاملاً ووضعت أمامنا عهداً جديد يتطلب نضال نقابي وجهد عالي ومثابرة لعهد جديد من أجل العدالة الاجتماعية والتي ربطتها بقوة العمال وتنظيمهم داخل نقاباتهم واتحاداتهم. وجاءت كلمة المدير العام لمنظمة العمل الدولية مؤكدة على ما طرحته الأخت شارون، وأكد على ضرورة وجود تحالف عالمي للعدالة الاجتماعية. إخوتي أخواتي، نحن في الاتحاد العام لنقابات عمال فلسطين نعمل بكل الوسائل المتاحة النقابية لكي ينعم عمالنا بالعدالة الاجتماعية عبر مفاوضات وحوار اجتماعي وتعديل لقانون العمل، وقد نجحنا وأخفقنا، ولكن تواجهنا معضلات ونتطلع لعلاج ذلك، وخاصة معاناة عمالنا الذين يعملون داخل الخط الأخضر من سماسرة يسرقون العمال من خلال بيع التصاريح واستغلال ساعات العمل الطويلة والأعمال الخطرة التي تواجه العمال. وتوجهنا إلى بحث تقصي الحقائق التي تزور فلسطين منذ عام 87 وتقدم تقاريرها بدون نتائج وبدون إجراءات والمكلفة من المدير العام لمنظمة العمل الدولية. لذلك نحن نطالب هذا المؤتمر أيضا التأكيد بضرورة أن يكون هناك مكتب لمنظمة العمل الدولية لرصد الانتهاكات بحق عمالنا المشغلين. وهناك تقرير خاص صدر عن الاتحاد الدولي ITUC حول الانتهاكات ولا أريد خوضه، وهو موجود على صفحات الاتحاد الدولي ITUC. إخوتي أخواتي، لضيق الوقت لا أريد أن أدخل بتفاصيل عما تقوم به حكومات إسرائيل من جرائم بحق شعبنا الفلسطيني. خلال فترة وجود الأخت شارون على رأس الاتحاد حصلت هناك 4 حروب على قطاع غزة وتدمير شامل لكل البنية التحتية الاقتصادية في قطاع غزة، وهناك قصص طويلة وعريضة عن ما يجري في قطاع غزة، وخاصة قتل الأطفال والنساء والشيوخ، وكذلك ما يجري بحي الشيخ جراح في القدس المحتلة عام 67 في 64، وما يجري في ساحات المسجد الأقصى المبارك والأماكن الدينية أيضا داخل القدس العربية المحتلة في 4 حزيران 67، واجتياح شبه يومي لكل شبر من المدن والقرى والمخيمات واعتقالات وعقاب جماعي وإرهاب المستوطنين، والقائمة طويلة ولا تنتهي. باختصار شديد جدا، الاحتلال ليس قبيح وحقير وفظ واحتلال، بل هو ذل والعدالة الاجتماعية. لا للاحتلال، لا للاحتلال، لا للاحتلال. الأخت شارون برو كنت تأملين أن يكون لنا تحرير لأرضنا ووطننا وأن ينتهي الاحتلال الإسرائيلي في فترتك، وكنت دائما تتطلعين إلى ذلك. صحيح ناضلت في الوطن العربي وأحدثت هناك حقائق نقابية على الأرض، ووجدت اتحاد عربي للنقابات العمالية والاتحاد العربي للنقابات، ولكن وبالنيابة عن الاتحادات العربية نقدر لك كل ما قدمتيه لنا كعرب وفي فلسطين. وحتى الآن يتحدثون عن زيارتك في قطاع غزة، الأطفال الذين كرمتوهم، عائلات الشهداء الذين كرمتوهم، المحاصرة، كل فلسطين. ومن هنا وكان إصرارك، أكد أن إصرارك أن تكون فلسطين عضواً في مجلس منظمة العمل الدولية، بالرغم أننا لسنا أعضاء، ولكن الأخت شارون أكدت أن فلسطين يجب أن تكون عضو في منظمة العمل الدولية والاتحاد العام. كل احترام والتقدير لها. لكني أقول لكل أعضاء المؤتمر الاحتلال سيزول. The Israeli occupation is coming to an end. Let's repeat together, no, no, no the occupation. Occupation against the social justice. Long live the ITUC. Sorry, President, but this is about, something for Sister Sharon about their support to the Palestinian.
While we get this ready, I'm going to call on Sister Rose to be prepared as the next speaker from Kotu, Kenya.
Don't worry, I'll undo it later.
And after Sister Rose, we will ask that Kanaka Rao Nilapu from CFTUI India will be after Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Rose, the floor is yours.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I want to acknowledge traditional leaders of the land, and I also want to acknowledge ITUC leadership through the able leadership of our sister Sharon Baron. And I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate the comprehensive statement of the Congress on the call for a new social contract. The call for a new social contract has never been urgent for the African continent, where most of the labor force is either unemployed or eke out a living in the informal economy. Our most urgent matter is the decent work agenda and the implementation of its 4 pillars. On decent work, the continent needs jobs for the youth. We are a young continent where over 1 billion are below the age of 35 and 60% are unemployed. We call upon social partners to formulate strategies that lead to sustainable development and the creation of economies, decent wages, and not precarious jobs characterized by low wage, and the fight for poverty is key for us. The transition from informal to formal is important for the continent and must be part of the social contract. We have millions of young workers that are working in artisanal small-scale mining, and millions of others are roadside mechanics, artisans, and tailors, among other informal activities. Without formalization, their working conditions remain deplorable, with health and safety standards ignored, and this has resulted in injuries and deaths of our young people. We need a social contract that strengthens the already shrinking space of workers, of trade unions, in engagement in social dialogue. A social contract that we want should also commit to elimination of gender-based violence and harassment in the world of work. And I want to call upon all comrade brothers who are here today and those who are not here, that they lead the campaign against gender-based violence and harassment, which has been a thorn in the flesh for young women and young girls in their places of work under the men in power who continue to violate their rights. I want to call upon this Congress to lead the campaign on ratification of Convention 190 so that we can promote a world that is free from violence and harassment and sexual harassment for our young women. We want to call for a social contract that ensures fair and just transition for all of us, that ensures green jobs for the unemployed youth and not expats is important.
Thank you, Sister Rose.
Yes, I want to lastly say that we would want to contribute to national development and the attainment of sustainable development, and also arguing that Africa states should slow the development of their economies in response to a crisis born of the already industrialized world does not find a response audience in a continent hungry for jobs and opportunity. Justice and inclusivity must be at the heart of a fair, just transition.
Thank you, Sister Rose. Kanaka Rao Nilapu from CFTUI India, you are next, and then Joanne Kerr, please be ready from the ACTU of Australia.
Thank you, Sister. Respected President and General Secretary, ITUC, and my colleagues. So I am representing the world's biggest democratic country in the world. It is a statement, generally the politicians generally used to campaign on that basis, but in the present scenario, under the leadership of Narendra Modi, the reverse actions have been taken by amalgamating all the labor laws which is meant for the workers of 500 workers of the Indian country, and coming to the civil rights, totally abolition of all the rights. If anybody speaks, they are being thrown in the jails. That is the reverse stage. This Narendra Modi is implementing all the anti-labor, anti-people policies. See, after 150 years of struggle by the Indian workers, we could able to get 44 labor laws which are so far protecting the interests of 500 million workers. But after the arrival of the Narendra Modi government, since 2014, they are totally against the workforce. One way they are promising election promises are that every year you will create 20 million jobs, and in practical life, he has removed all the workers and making even the public sector units into, converting the public sector units into private sectors. One example I can tell you, when he made a farm laws without the consultation of the farm unions and without the labor codes, without the involvement of the labor unions, which is so far the labor unions have got a good platform. When the government want to change a small amendment, the government used to speak with the Indian trade unions. But here, without any consultation with the trade unions, he made all the anti-labor policies and brought 4 codes, which are totally took away the rights of the workers and welfare of the workers. Now the trade unions are in a big questionable stage, where to go like that. I just want to, as a colleague, a junior colleague, like to them, the ITUC and HMS, what I practically enjoy is only the revolt, and by bringing awareness among the workers only, we can reply to such people, like the farmers of India who can do 1 year strike without any break and could able to pressurize the government of India to withdraw the anti-farmer 3 labor laws. That is a big example. And I want to involve myself. Just we are involved in a big gas station in one industry called in a southern industry. That is the same way he has, without any consultation with the trade unions and the state government, he made a total 100% disinvestment in the biggest industry of steel industry, where all the trade unions as
Thank
combined.
You, brother.
Okay, sister, combined as a JSC and could able to fighting out, and which we could able to stop for more than 2 years. Thank you, sister.
Thank you. Welcome to the stage, Joanne Kerr, ACTU Australia, Steiner Krogstad from LO Norway. Please be prepared to speak next. Of course, welcome. Welcome to the stage.
Hi everyone, my name's Jo Kerr. I'm a proud Murrawari Nemba woman. My family comes from Brewarrina in northwest New South Wales. Before I start today, I too would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd like to extend that respect to my Indigenous brothers and sisters here today, and also to my non-Indigenous comrades. Thank you for being here. On Thursday, a lot was talked about gender and how quotas had been introduced to ensure 40% of the delegates to Congress are women. This Congress achieved just over 50%, sorry. Young people spoke in the importance about including young workers, but mandates should be introduced to ensure that Indigenous representatives and young people have a voice and that structures so that they can be heard. Over the next 4 years, work needs to be done to establish an Indigenous or First Nations network or a committee at the ITCU. When I thought that there was an Indigenous caucus the other night, I asked, did the registration process ask if I was Indigenous? The answer was no. Delegates or observers weren't requested to identify as Indigenous or First Nations peoples. I want to leave you all, every one of you, with some homework to do for the next 4 years. What we need you to do is we need you to lobby your governments to ratify the ILO Convention 169 or the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We want you to structure in all your peak union bodies, including the ITCU, and encourage your affiliates to do the same, to ensure that there are Indigenous structures so that Indigenous peoples are not only heard but included, respected, and their thoughts and views are actioned. Ensure the registration process for this and similar forums includes identifying representatives as Indigenous. And when we talk about climate change, include us, Indigenous peoples, because we have cared for the lands and maintained them for thousands and thousands of years. Use our knowledge to make sure that we're involved. Continue to have First Nations side events, but it should be led by us. Led by First Nations peoples to set the agenda. It's a great opportunity for affiliates to share their best practice of what they do for their First Nations or Indigenous members. Schedule an Indigenous-only caucus at the next ITCU. There should be nothing about us without us. Somebody said that here yesterday, but you're right. There should be nothing about us, Indigenous peoples, without us. There should be no discussions or decisions about us without including an Indigenous or First Nations voice. For far too many years, people have decided what's best for us because they knew what we wanted or needed. Not true. There should be nothing about us without us, as we know what's best for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. I welcome Steiner Krogstad to the stage from Elo, Norway, and then Muna from GFWTU Yemen. Please be prepared next.
Dear comrades, sisters and brothers, the first match has now been played in Qatar in the World Cup, but the match is still ongoing for the workers. The world will see magnificent stadiums, hotels, infrastructure on display, most of it built by migrant workers who can never afford entering the same premises or pay tickets to attend the matches. We have for years had focus on workers' rights in Qatar, and especially the working condition of migrant workers. Massive efforts have been done by ITUC, global unions, and by National Confederation. Many successes can be mentioned, but right now I want to focus on the worries many of us share regarding what will happen with the migrant workers after the World Cup is over. Sisters and brothers, we must address it now and make a powerful learn about their rights. We must address it now and make a powerful statement from the Congress regarding the migrant workers in Qatar and our demands for future follow-up for migrants. The BWI and other global unions have called for the government to grant recognition and registration to a migrant workers center. This should be run by migrants as a safe place for migrants to learn about their rights, seek legal advice, and provide skills training for workers' representatives, including health and safety. Several unions on this Congress have signed a clear statement with clear demands regarding the future of migrant workers and supporting the establishment of a migrant center. This morning I read that there will be a permanent ILO office established by ILO and Qatar government working together with international unions. There is a question regarding the function of such a center, its governance structure and how this is to function vis-à-vis ILO, the ITUC and others on the ground. However, we invite all good actors, the ITUC, ILO, global unions and others to cooperate on how to set up such initiatives, how to cooperate on achieving funds available to compensate migrant workers and how to make such a center function. This is the time to gather the forces to stand behind the migrant workers of Qatar. We ask the ITUC to support all initiatives and activities of Global Unions Federation to support the workers in all sectors. Comrades, let us stay firmly behind the migrant workers of Qatar and work for the only sustainable solution in the long term also, the right to organize, negotiate, and the right to strike.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Spener. I now invite Muna from GFWTU Yemen to come to the podium.
تحية من أرض الحضارة، تحية من أصل العرب، تحية من اليمن. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. النقابيون والنقابيات الأحرار، أسعدتم بالخير جميعاً. إنني سعيداً أن أكون مشاركة باسم اتحاد ونقابات عمال اليمن. هذه الدورة المؤتمر الخامس الذي يشارك فيه كوكبة من النقابيون والنقابيون الأحرار، وأجدها مناسبة لأجدد لكم التهاني القلبية لإنعقاد هذا المؤتمر الخامس العالمي، وأكبر ذلك في ذلك الوقت في بلد اليمن وشعبه الذي يعيش ظرفاً طارئاً وقاهراً نتيجة للمعاناة التي تكابدها اليمنيين، والتي آخرها التضيق على الموظفين وقطاع العمال. الحضور الكرام، إنني أحمل إليكم هموم ومعاناة المرأة اليمنية. أحمل إليكم معاناة المرأة اليمنية حيث تعيش نساء اليمن أسوأ أوضاعهن على الإطلاق بسبب النزاع الدائر في الجمهورية اليمنية أكثر من 8 سنوات. الزميلات والزملاء، إن المرأة اليمنية باتت تواجه ظروف الحياة القاسية التي تظل في وضع اقتصادي معقد في البلد، وهو ما ينعكس على حياة الفرد والمجتمع الذي أساسه المرأة ونواياه المجتمع، مع استمرار عدم صرف المرتبات. السيدات والسادة، النقابيون والنقابيون الأحرار، ليعلم أن الجميع أن الأمر لا يتوقف على هذا الحد، بل هنالك إصدار أحكام غير قانونية واعتقالات للنقابيون والتهجير القسري ونهب مصادرات الممتلكات ومصادرات الحقوق والحريات. وأمام هذا الوضع والمعاناة التي يعيش فيها الشعب اليمني باعتباره جزء من العالم، نتطلع بآمال كبيرة أن يكون هنالك موقف جاد، وآمال كبيرة موقف جاد منكم أيها الاتحاد الدولي وأنتم النقابيون والنقابيات. زملائي وزميلاتي، اليمن نحن نعتقل، نحن نهجر بسبب ممارستنا العمل النقابي. أتمنى من النقابيون والنقابيات من المتواجدون في القاعة أن يقفون تضامناً مع الشعب اليمني، فأتمنى الجميع الوقوف stand up. عاشت الحركة النقابية حراء أبية، عاشت الحركة النقابية حراء أبية.
Thank you, Muna. I now invite Elzinga, FNB Netherlands. Thereafter, we'll pause to receive the report of the Finance from the Deputy General Secretary.
Thank you. Greetings, sisters and brothers. What a powerful exhibition of global trade union enthusiasm, trade union pride, and trade union action this morning. Thank you. And thank you, Sister Sharon, for your inspiring leadership over so many years. And thank you, both brothers Luca and brother Kamal, for willing to follow in Sharon's footsteps. And good luck with that, Luca. Congratulations. And of course, I thank the ITUC and the ACTU for organizing this magnificent event. But how wonderful this event might be, we do meet at a time of grim omni-crisis. So we have very serious business to discuss. So now I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to the elders past and present. And I would like to extend that respect to Aboriginal people here today and to all indigenous and all migrant peoples all over the world, especially to emerging and future generations. Because our present generation is heavily in debt with the future generations. Our societies are indebted, even though our public sectors are already being sold out. Our economy is indebted towards the planet we live on, towards the ground that feeds us, and towards the people that work the planet. We live, we work in a system that exploits our planet and its resources, and that exploits the land that feeds us, and that exploits us, our members, the workers. We need a transition of our economy towards ecological sustainability, but we can never do it if that transition is not just and working for everybody. How can our members worry about the end of a planet in a somewhat obscure, distant future if their acute worries are with the end of this month? If they can't pay their bills, if they are not able to keep their children from being hungry right now. We can't address the climate crisis, we can't address the biodiversity crisis, or even the trust crisis of our societies if we cannot address the cost of living crisis for our members at this very moment. So we urgently need to alter that system of exploitation. Stop exploiting the ecosystem. We need full circularity as soon as possible. Stop exploiting our societies. Reinvest in public goods and services, in social rights and social protection, and make our companies pay their fair share. Stamp out tax avoidance, and stop exploiting our workers. Give them a real pay rise. Your members deserve a pay rise, our members deserve a pay rise, and Australia deserves a pay rise. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on.
Thank you, colleague. Thank you. Colleagues, delegates will now pause to receive financial report for the period 2018 to 2021. I now invite Owen, our Deputy General Secretary, to introduce the report.
Thanks very much, President. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Congress, in moving the adoption of the financial reports for the past 4 years, which are on the Congress website, I would like to thank and acknowledge the work done by our Finance Department and all the staff in it, led by their Director, Adrian Rutlos. I would also like to acknowledge and thank the elected auditors who have overseen our work since the last Congress, Matthias Müller of DGB Germany, Peter Wericke of NOTU Uganda, and firstly Sarah Steffens and latterly Shari Cannon of the AFL-CIO USA. Their advice has been both sound and salutary. And we have also engaged new external auditors as part of a more professional approach to finances. That more professional and systematic approach will be more and more important in addressing the difficult financial situation we, like all of you, face over the next 4 years. I'm glad to record that both our internal and external auditors have signed off our accounts for each of the last 4 years, and they have been adopted by the executive bureaus and general councils as appropriate. And I would also like to acknowledge and thank the chairs of the Executive Bureau over the last 4 years, initially Carl-Petter Thorwaldsen of LO Sweden, and latterly Kathy Feingold from the AFL-CIO in the US, and the members of the Executive Bureau whose principal task is to oversee the finances of the International Trade Union Confederation. We are glad to be held to account by the elected leaders of the trade union movement, and we welcome the challenges and the advice that they give in equal measure. The COVID pandemic and the subsequent economic crisis that has resulted from the illegal and unacceptable invasion of Ukraine and the blatant price gouging of energy and food multinationals in particular have led to the situation described in the documents before you. Our paying membership has continued to decline, while the demands on us and the costs of our work have continued to increase. So Congress, although the ITUC is fundamentally financially healthy, we have had to become more efficient in the way we use the resources you give us through the affiliation fee, and we will need to continue to reduce our costs. Moving our headquarters into a more modern, energy-efficient building will help. Holding more virtual meetings, although we all love getting together in meetings like this, will help. Raising more money from appropriate union-friendly donors and ensuring that money funds the full costs of the work we commit to doing will help. And I look forward to working with all of you to make sure that we can make the most of those opportunities in your countries. We face difficult times ahead, and we all know that the only long-term answer is membership growth. For that, we need to organise, organise, organise. I move the financial reports. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Owen, for that financial report for the period 2018 to 2021. Colleagues, I therefore present the report for your adoption, please. Can we adopt the report? Adopted. Thank you very much. I hand over to Kathy that will continue our debate.
Sisters and brothers, I now call to the floor Pauline Worsfold from the Canadian Labour Congress Canada, and after her, Stuart Applebaum. You will be welcome from the AFL-CIO. Pauline.
And my fan club.
Are they friends?
Oh, yeah. That's my fan club. First, I'd like to say thank you to Sharon Burrow for your time and your talent that she has so freely shared with the workers of the world. Many, many thanks. I'm a proud registered nurse, a proud union member for 41 years, and a proud Canadian Labour Congress delegate today. I've worked on the front lines during the pandemic and will continue to work there on my return home to Canada. We all experienced fear, shock, and anger at the lack of preparation for the pandemic, lack of personal protective equipment, lack of vaccines, and lack of an overall plan, let's face it. And the lack of the overall plan led to unnecessary deaths of thousands of healthcare workers worldwide. Long before the pandemic, healthcare unions were sounding the alarm, and huge gaps in our healthcare system, including staffing shortages in Canada. Our cherished public healthcare system is being threatened by years of austerity measures, of underfunding, understaffing, and leading us to the brink of collapse, and pushing us to the false solution of privatization. The idea of someone profiting off the sick, elderly, and injured is reprehensible to us Canadians. And to top it off, there is not one shred of evidence to support the idea that privatization is better for anyone's health, not one shred of evidence. Rising workplace in the healthcare sector is the newest epidemic in Canada and around the world. And in Canada, we have still not ratified the ILO C-190. Shame on Canada, shame. The mental health and wellness of healthcare workers is suffering today and will continue to suffer long into the future unless we demand and take action worldwide to address staffing shortages and workload issues. Everyone's health is at risk. No one is safe unless everyone is safe. I want to express support for the draft Congress statement and the call for a new social contract, including the demand for strong investments in the care economy. And one last thing, the whole world is short-staffed. Be kind to the workers who show up to work.
Thank you so much. It's now my honor to call Stuart Applebaum from the AFL-CIO in the United States. Stuart. And after Stuart, Heather Erlin from the Canadian Labour Congress. Please be ready.
Sisters and brothers, colleagues and comrades,
Amazon is transforming industry after industry around the world, from e-commerce to technology to logistics to so many more. It employs more than 1 million people. Its business model is based on paying little or no taxes, feasting on public subsidies, and mistreating and dehumanizing its employees. Working conditions are so bad that there is a 150% turnover every year. People are managed by an algorithm. They get their assignments on an app. They are disciplined or fired by text message. They are afraid to go to the bathroom for fear of losing their jobs. And if left unchallenged, Amazon will determine what the future of work will look like and how workers will be treated in that future. The importance of standing up to Amazon transcends this one company. We can't afford to let its model become everybody's model. This is about the future of work. This is about the new social contract. And workers are rising up. They are standing up and pushing back against Amazon's inhumane working conditions and disrespect. Workers are tired of being treated like a disposable commodity. They are tired of being treated like robots. They are tired of dangerous working conditions brought about by automation that makes work faster and more repetitive, grinding workers down both physically and psychologically. They are tired of constant surveillance and a lack of respect for their humanity. And they are tired of being thrown crumbs while the corporate elite takes joyrides into outer space. They are tired of not sharing in their employers' enormous profits. They are tired of being treated like they just don't matter. 2 weeks ago, Amazon workers and organizers from 17 countries came together in Brussels as part of UNI's Global Amazon Alliance to plot a common strategy. This Friday, Black Friday, Amazon workers around the world will be demonstrating with a common theme of Make Amazon Pay. Because no matter where Amazon operates, the conditions and the existential threat are the same. This campaign is too big for any one union or any one country. The entire global labor movement needs to unite together to take on Amazon. We can't afford to allow Amazon's model to become the model for the future of work. Finally, I want to thank General Secretary Sharon Burrow for her constant support. She was there before just about anybody else. Sharon, we love you. Thank you. And one more finally. Luca and Lula, the future is bright.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Heather, you are up. And after Heather, Stefano Malorgio from CGIL Italy, please be prepared.
Good morning, trade unionists of the world. My name is Heather Erlin. I use she, her pronouns, and I join you today from Toronto, which is the unceded, unsurrendered territory of many First Nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. It is my sincere honor to be here with all of you today. I'm the Ontario Director for the Canadian Labour Congress, and I'm here at the ITUC as their youth delegate. Dans notre pays, il y a deux langues officielles, le français et l'anglais. Alors, je voudrais dire merci à mes amis québécois. Today, I stand before you as a woman, as a trade unionist, as a fighter, and as a builder towards a more just and sustainable world. I'd like to thank the many speakers who've expressed how important young workers are in our collective future, in how we grow as a labor movement, and how we continue to bring in new generations to see the power of unions and what is made possible through organized labor. In having had the opportunity to converse with the, 62 young workers here at the ITUC, they are powerful, passionate, and innovative. They have boundless determination to help improve the lives of workers and to bring more people into our movement. I look forward to seeing what they do in the 4 years ahead and onward. As a young woman and as a young worker, I'm here today to also give credit to the countless speakers from across the world in their advocacy and action to stop gender-based violence. And what an exciting and meaningful announcement from the Prime Minister here today. It rang so clear for us when it was articulated that this violence is a pandemic in and of itself that women, girls, and gender-diverse persons face. In the Inclusive Union Movement Forum, we heard from representatives worldwide sharing outstanding and multifaceted work that's being done to tackle gender-based violence, both as a worker issue, as an organized labor issue, and as a social justice issue. With the support of my fellow young workers, and as we gather here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia, to define a new social contract, I bring to the forefront with all of you an elemental piece in fighting to eradicate relationship violence. My sisters, brothers, and friends, that is proliferating a healthy relationships curriculum, both in our public schools and education centers, as well as in our unions. I've invested much of my academic and activist life to researching and understanding the main pillars of relationship health and its effect on workers' prosperity. In this work, it's clear that relationship health is very complex. However, there are fundamental truths when it comes to fertile soil for healthy relationships to grow. For example, each individual's right to self-determination, agency, and autonomy to act on that agency. A deep understanding of our emotions and how they work, how they can take over, and what to do when they do start to take over. Education that not only addresses the red flags in relationships, but talks about what makes a relationship great, vibrant, and fulfilling.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you very much for your time today, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. I know that through the power of the labor movement and in our belief in education, that we can do this in our unions. There's clear examples across the whole world of relationship health being embedded into our curriculum. So if you're interested in seeing that in your own country, please do speak with me. I'd love to talk further about how this is becoming a reality across the world. So, solidarity, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome, Stefano, and then compañera Junea from the CUT Brazil, you are next.
Care delegate e cari delegati, io penso che abbiamo fatto bene a mettere al centro del Congresso la necessità di un nuovo contratto sociale, perché quello costruito nel secolo scorso non è più in grado di reggere di fronte agli enormi cambiamenti, e tutto è cambiato. È cambiato tutto sul piano economico. Il potere e la ricchezza si è concentrata sempre di più nelle mani di poche grandi multinazionali che hanno bilanci grandi come gli Stati. Una ricchezza che non arriva ai lavoratori che la producono e lascia sui territori solo i problemi sociali con un impatto negativo soprattutto sulle donne e sui migranti. È cambiato tutto sul piano tecnologico. Le nuove tecnologie sul piano sociale non stanno producendo benefici se non per chi le possiede. I carichi di lavoro sono aumentati, non ci hanno liberato dal lavoro, ma anzi hanno annullato in molti casi la distanza tra riposo e lavoro. I lavoratori vengono discriminati usando le nuove tecnologie. Allora abbiamo bisogno di dire che se una tecnologia è così importante nella nostra vita, questa non può sfuggire al controllo pubblico. È cambiato tutto sul piano climatico. Siamo nel pieno di una catastrofe climatica con un modello produttivo che tenta di far pagare ai ceti più poveri il costo dell'inquinamento che loro producono per non cambiare minimamente stile di vita. Allora abbiamo bisogno di dire che chi più inquina più deve pagare, ma anche impegnarci per la riconversione industriale e l'economia disarmata. È cambiata e sta cambiando la democrazia. Abbiamo immaginato un mondo in cui la democrazia non potesse essere messa in discussione. Invece avanzano gli autoritarismi e i neofascismi. Il movimento sindacale viene attaccato, depotenziato, diviso. Questa è una grande emergenza che riguarda tutti e sulla quale dobbiamo mobilitarci a livello globale ed anche costruire con il nuovo contratto sociale una nuova centralità per chi lavora, che rischia, senza una rappresentanza, di appoggiare le forme autoritarie. Su quali forze possiamo contare per fare tutto questo? Sui lavoratori che in tutto il mondo tornano a chiedere di essere organizzati. Guardate, io sono ottimista. Guardo al ritorno della forza del movimento sindacale negli Stati Uniti, a quello che è successo in Brasile con l'elezione del compagno Lula, a quello che è accaduto in Italia dove con le lotte i lavoratori hanno piegato Just Eat e hanno piegato Amazon, dicendo che anche quando si investe in un paese si deve tenere conto della forza e della determinazione di chi lavora. E poi dobbiamo contare sulle nostre organizzazioni internazionali. Il capitale non conosce confini, per questo anche la CSI va difesa e rafforzata, perché come una nave fragile in un mare interpesta è il solo luogo che abbiamo in cui possiamo discutere democraticamente di lavoro. Caro Luca, auguri per questo nuovo incarico che ci rende orgogliosi come sindacati italiani. Abbiamo bisogno di una CSI forte, rivendicativa, plurale, vicina ai lavoratori e lavoratrici che rappresenta. Abbiamo bisogno di rafforzare il multilateralismo, che è sempre più indebolito da chi vuole dividere il mondo in blocchi, come sta facendo la guerra in Ucraina. La voce del lavoro deve essere al centro del multilateralismo. Non abbiamo alternative, dipende tutto da noi. Voglio tornare dai lavoratori che rappresentiamo in Italia e dire che abbiamo rafforzato questa nave e abbiamo rafforzato tutti loro. Grazie.
Thank you, Junea. And KM Assam from JSL Bangladesh, you will be next.
Hello. Bom dia, companheiros e companheiras. Antes de eu começar a fazer a minha fala, eu queria pedir para os intérpretes traduzirem o que está escrito na minha camiseta. Meu voto é secreto. Com a cara, né? Porque algumas pessoas me perguntavam e eu não sabia o que dizer. Então, começando minha fala, eu gostaria... Bom dia, companheiros, companheiras e companheiros. Espera aí, que quer sair. Antes de dar o meu recado como servidora pública da saúde do Brasil, quero deixar o meu abraço solidário ao povo haitiano que vem sendo vilipendiado, explorado e massacrado desde que conseguiram a sua independência em 1803. Não podemos esquecer que a África é a mãe do planeta Terra e dos seus ascendentes brancos. Como bem lembrou o companheiro Lisboa ontem, 20 de novembro é o Dia da Consciência Negra no Brasil, data em homenagem ao líder quilombola Zumbi dos Palmares, que peitou o Império Português. Bem, quero deixar algumas considerações sobre o tema do nosso congresso e a organização social do cuidado. Tenho convicção de que um novo contrato social não será possível sem a reconstrução social do cuidado. A transformação da vida e do trabalho das mulheres em toda a nossa diversidade depende de um passo fundamental: mudar a divisão sexual do trabalho, que nos limita estruturalmente. Mas o que essa mudança implica? Inicialmente implica na reconstrução da organização social social do cuidado, para a qual os sindicatos e o movimento feminista propõem uma agenda de 5 R's. R1, reconhecer o valor social e econômico do trabalho de cuidado, remunerado ou não, e o direito humano ao cuidado. Recompensar, remunerar e representar o trabalho de cuidado e cuidadores com trabalho profissionalizado, remuneração igual para trabalho de igual valor, pensões adequadas, proteção social integral, condições de trabalho saudáveis e seguras, representação forte, pleno exercício dos seus direitos de sindicalização, negociação coletiva e diálogo social de acordo com a agenda do trabalho decente da OIT. 3. Reduzir o fardo do trabalho de cuidado não remunerado das mulheres. Redistribuir o trabalho de cuidado dentro dos lares, entre os trabalhadores e trabalhadoras, eliminando a divisão sexual do trabalho e entre os lares e o Estado. Quinto, reivindicar o caráter público dos serviços de atendimento e restaurar o dever e responsabilidade primários do Estado de prestar serviços públicos de atendimento. Desenvolver sistemas de atendimento que transformem as relações de gênero e vida das mulheres, financiando a capacidade de investimento. Ai, está acabando meu tempo. De investimento, me perdi, do Estado por meio de uma tributação justa e progressiva e garantindo a igualdade de direitos tributários dos Estados nacionais e internacionalmente. Por isso eu peço a adesão de todos os sindicatos aqui presentes ao Manifesto do Cuidado que está na Internacional de Serviços Públicos como parte de uma conscientização global para a desfeminização e desfamiliarização do cuidado que deve ser garantido como um direito fundamental das mulheres, sob responsabilidade do Estado e não só das mulheres. Eu ia terminar com palavras de ordem comum entre nós, mas prefiro saudar o povo argentino pela perda de uma guerreira contra a ditadura militar, a querida Hebe Bonafini, que foi lutar em outro plano. Hebe Bonafini, presente! Hebe Bonafini, presente! Obrigada.
Obrigada, companheira. Now we will hear from KM Azam from JSL Bangladesh and Aisha Hamouda from PGF2 Palestine. Please be ready.
Assalamu alaikum. Shubho Shakal. Abhinandan. Dear Chair, Sister Sharon Barrow, and dear Congress, thanks for inviting us in these great events of 5th ITUC Congress. I think this large gathering will find its meaning if we can take more initiative. The helpless and distressed labor brothers from this Congress, we need to look into the different problems of migrant workers, women workers all over the world. Sexual violence, child labor, is a bargaining issue nowadays. We need to keep an eye so that it is totally stopped. Gender equity is a key factor that we need to give more importance in every sector. Above all, SDG and decent work for workers. Outsourcing is one of the most important trade union activities and movement. Social dialogue is very important. Trade union rights of workers. We have to think about environmental pollution. Corona pandemic has lots of economic damage. We need to recover from this situation. Formal sector always decrease, but informal sector always increase day by day. These are the main challenges we are facing and will have to face in near future. We need to do more awareness and social networking in mitigate these challenges. Only then the labor movement all over the world will be a great success. Legal framework of every action in this most needed factor for any movement and meaningful monitoring is the prime need for any action we assist. These are the some points that are recommended from GSL in front of this large Congress.
Thank you, brother.
Victory to solidarity, victory to labor.
Thank you. Welcome to Aisha Hamouda, PGF2 Palestine. Osman Yildiz from Hakish, Turkey. You will be next.
Okay. مساء الخير للجميع وتحية نضالية عمالية نحيي فيها المناضلة لها تاريخ في العمل النقابي ورسخت مفاهيم العمل النقابي الأخت شارون بيرو، وتحية موجهة من المرأة الفلسطينية ومن المرأة العربية بما أمثله من المرأة العربية. من هنا أنطلق لأقول أنني فلسطينية آتي من أرض المحتلة ومن انتهاكات عالية تصل للعمل الجبري، انتهاكات لكل معايير حقوق الإنسان، لتصل فعلياً لانتهاك معايير اتفاقيات منظمة العمل الدولية للعمل الجبري والقسري. عمالنا تقتل على المعابر، عمالنا ترمى لما تصاب بالإصابات الكورونا على المعابر، وليس فقط ذلك تحت مظلة أمنية لا يمكن أي نوع من أنواع الرعاية الصحية أو شروط الصحة والسلامة المهنية. ومن هذه البوابة وفي سلسلة التقارير التي وثقت هذا الانتهاك الصارخ تجاه الشعب الفلسطيني، وللأسف حلمنا بعيد المدى الذي كان حلم الأجداد والآن هو حلمنا، ونخاف أن يكون حلم أحفادنا أن يكون هناك إقامة دولة فلسطين. ومن هذه الرسالة وعنوان للسلام أتوجه لحضرتكم بأهمية أن يكون هناك محاسبة فعليا على الانتهاكات الصارخة تجاه عمالنا وبالأخص للنقابات الإسرائيلية، استنادا لتقرير منظمة العمل الدولية تقصي الحقائق وتقرير ITUC والتقرير المفصل للحركة النقابية. النقطة الثانية، فعليا إحنا كنساء موجودين في هذا المؤتمر ونعمل في داخل بلداننا على أن يكون لنا دور حقيقي وأن يكون هناك فعلا تضمين لمعايير منظمة العمل الدولية في اتفاقية 190 واتفاقية التمييز واتفاقية الإنصاف في الأجور، وفعليا شهدنا إنجازات. نحن قويات وفعلا نحن قويات، ولكن الإشكالية الحقيقية ليس فقط في تمثيل 50% وإنما في تفعيل 50% ليكونوا شركاء مساندين للرجال. نسعى ليس فقط لتحقيق بيئة عمل آمنة، وإنما نسعى لأن نكون قيادات فعالة نقيم لعملنا وليس لأننا نساء. النقطة الأخيرة واللي أنا حابة أشير لها موضوع السياسات الاقتصادية في العالم. أشار زميلنا لوكا واللي بوجه له التهنئة في أنه رئيس منظمة العمل رئيس ITUC في الأمين العام في الاتحاد الدولي. الجانب اللي له علاقة بالسياسات الاقتصادية والاجتماعية ليس فقط في أهمية مراعاتها على مستوى العالم للقطاع العمالي، لا، نحن في الحركة النقابية من نصنع السياسات الاقتصادية. أنا مع أنه يكون في المرحلة فعليا دور فعال على مستوى العالم في كل هيئات التي تضع السياسات الاقتصادية والاجتماعية، لأننا نحن من نصنع الاقتصاد. لولا وجودنا لن يكون هناك اقتصاد ولن يكون هناك ربحية، وهذا يضعنا في أن يكون لنا تكاثف في عملية التنظيم النقابي ليكون حركة نقابية قوية عالمية تضع سياسات اقتصادية وتصنع سياسات اقتصادية تحقق العمل اللائق في بيئة العمل اللائق. ومن هذه البوابة أرى أن يكون دور فعال ليس فقط ليس فقط على مستوى الاتحاد الدولي وإنما على مستوى المناطق، كما أتمنى أن ينعكس ذلك على مستوى المنطقة العربية. وشكرا.
Shukran. Thank you so much, Sister. Osman Yildiz, Hakish, Turkey, and then Diana Gomez from CTC, Colombia. You're going to be next.
Dear Chair, dear delegates, I greet you all on behalf of Hakish Confederation of Turkey. In this 5th ITUC Congress, we are all discussing whole issues and creating a roadmap for the future. This Congress brings all democratic trade union leaders across the globe. Therefore, we are the ones to search, to struggle, to find solutions for the severe problems under challenging conditions. ITUC is a strong base and a larger home for us to coordinate our efforts and struggles. ITUC becomes larger by being more inclusive to cover more countries. I congratulate unions of 2 big countries, Kazakhstan and Sudan, joining ITUC. I believe for this Congress, the key word is the organize, as underlined by Sharon Barrow. We are all thankful for her of this objective. This should be the way a main pillar to achieve a new social contract. Indeed, a new social contract is an ideal target for the world and for the countries. Our unions should produce policies, strategies, actions to make these targets come true. The world goes through market economy under neoliberal philosophy. Therefore, we should find ways and means to organize private sector, multinationals, mainly through social dialogue. In our country, as Hakish, we are in an attempt to organize and struggle to find solutions against the problems ranging from subcontracting to state-owned enterprises and seasonal workers. From wage increases, huge wage taxes, issues of OHS in general, and minings in general. We do it either individually and or collectively with other unions and social partners where it is necessary and would be the case. This requires a comprehensive social model for our nation. ITUC provides a tool of global rights index for union rights. I believe when the ITUC couples this one by a twin index of global achievements of rights, it would be highly guiding and encouraging for us as the unionists to feel confident against the tide. We should be thankful for the General Secretary Sharon Barrow, the President Ayuba, the members of the Secretariat for their great achievements, for ACTU for hosting us here in Australia. The 5th Congress is staging up and reaching to further new horizons of the trade union struggle. Under the leadership of new General Secretary Luca Vicentini and his team, we congratulate them and wish them every success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, brother. Diana Gomez, CTC Colombia, and then Mamadou Sordo from CSH Côte d'Ivoire. You will be next.
Saludos a todos y todas desde la Confederación de Trabajadores de Colombia. Manifestamos nuestros respetos a los pueblos originarios del mundo e igualmente nuestro reconocimiento a la compañera Sharon y nuestro saludo al compañero Luca. Confiamos en que la CCI continuará fortaleciéndose a favor de las banderas de la clase trabajadora y mantendrá sus políticas inclusivas. Hoy consideramos que el reto para todos es mantener el equilibrio entre la valoración y el respeto al trabajo y a los derechos laborales y la garantía de las políticas y acceso a la protección social para todos los ciudadanos del mundo. No debe existir una competencia entre estos dos objetivos. Los estados deben dedicarse primordialmente a lo social. Los trabajadores hemos ganado unas conquistas y derechos que debemos mantener y desarrollar, relacionados con la salud en el trabajo, las prestaciones económicas y sociales y, en general, los servicios para nuestro bienestar y el de nuestras familias. Conquistas que tienen ataques como todo lo relacionado con la tercerización laboral. Estas garantías que hemos logrado deben extenderse en lo posible a los trabajadores que hoy no tienen un vínculo directo. Por ejemplo, en Colombia la informalidad supera el 55% y eso se traduce en desprotección social. Igualmente, la civilización debe asegurar para todos los habitantes del mundo un nivel básico de protección que será un soporte para la paz mundial tan anhelada y para posibilitar un entorno favorable a nuestras luchas, nivel que hoy más de 1.200 millones de personas aún no han logrado por encontrarse en la pobreza. Esa debe ser una de las motivaciones y retos que nos muevan. Las políticas de protección social guardan directa relación con la economía del cuidado, con el reconocimiento y compensación del aporte de las y los trabajadores cuidadores al desarrollo económico y productivo. La generación de servicios sociales del cuidado posibilitará y contribuirá a la equidad de género y será una salida para el gran desempleo mundial. Esto, el proveer servicios sociales del cuidado, requiere equilibrio fiscal y justicia fiscal y de relaciones simétricas entre los países y modelos económicos de desarrollo sostenible. ¡Viva la unidad de los trabajadores y trabajadoras del mundo!
Que viva! Thank you, sister. Mamadou Soro from the CSH Côte d'Ivoire. Lizzie Joseph from CFTUI India, you will be next.
Camarades président de la Confédération syndicale internationale Ayuba Waba, camarade Sharon Bureau, secrétaire général de la CSI, à toi, merci beaucoup pour l'encadrement que tu as apporté à mon organisation syndicale, la Centrale syndicale humanisme, et je suis reconnaissant. De la mission de haut niveau de mars 2019 que tu as bien voulu organiser au Fonds monétaire international et à la Banque mondiale, et tu as bien voulu que je fasse partie de cette délégation de plaidoyer. Merci à toi, longue vie à toi. Mon pays, la Côte d'Ivoire, aujourd'hui fait face à de grands défis, particulièrement le monde syndical. La première des questions, c'est la question de la protection des 90% des travailleurs et travailleuses de l'économie informelle qui représentent près de 80% du produit intérieur brut de mon pays. La revalorisation de la fonction des travailleuses, surtout, particulièrement dans le secteur domestique et dans les carrières. Nous avons aussi, surtout, plus de 80% des travailleurs du secteur des mines qui sont sans protection sociale et sans couverture sociale. Il y a aussi la corruption qui ne permet pas la mobilisation davantage de ressources à l'effet d'organiser une meilleure protection sociale aux travailleurs et travailleuses de Côte d'Ivoire. Oui, face à ces grands défis du monde syndical ivoirien, les organisations syndicales ne sont pas restées les mêmes croisées. Ensemble, dans une synergie d'action d'unité, l'Union générale des travailleurs de Côte d'Ivoire, UGTCI, la Fédération des syndicats autonomes de Côte d'Ivoire, la FESACI, la Confédération syndicale des syndicats libres, CSL Dignité, humanisme ont associé aux 4 membres de la Confédération syndicale internationale que nous sommes, 4 autres structures à l'effet d'organiser l'unité syndicale. Ainsi, depuis 10 ans, elles ont su construire l'intersyndicale du secteur de la sécurité et santé au travail, une autre sur les normes internationales du travail, une autre sur la migration des travailleurs, une autre encore sur le travail décent et la lutte contre le travail des enfants, et une sur la transition juste et les emplois verts. Dans ce même temps, une mémorable grève en 2017 nous aura permis d'aller à un grand accord, un protocole d'accord en août 2017 qui nous aura permis d'obtenir des avantages sociaux d'une valeur d'environ 357 milliards de francs CFA, soit environ 500 millions de francs de dollars américains. En outre, nous inspirons donc de cette grande négociation de 2017 à l'expiration en 2022. Nous, les 8 organisations syndicales sûrement citées, nous avons entrepris la négociation avec le gouvernement de Côte d'Ivoire et nous sommes arrivés le 8 août 2022 à la signature d'un protocole d'accord d'environ 2,1 milliards de dollars qui garantit la protection sociale. Les syndicats de Côte d'Ivoire sont engagés pour le nouveau contrat social dans l'unité, la solidarité et l'engagement renouvelé. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. We will now hear from Lizzie Joseph, CFTUI India, Marcel Godfrey Selematsela from FEDUSA, South Africa. You will be next.
Brothers and sisters, good morning. And wonderful Congress has been organized by the team. Congratulations to you. I want to start with the workers united will never be defeated. The migrants united will never be defeated. The women united will never be defeated. The youth united will never be defeated. So I call on all the trade unionists here, let us stand together for the rights of workers. The workers are the builders of this world. They have contributed to the economy, to the progress, to the development. When it comes to their recognition, they have been kept away. So it's a time for us to look at the rights of all the workers around the world and stand together. Yes, as ITUC, we need to research and create evidence-based report to place on record on the contributions made by the workers and labor right violations. We need to get down to organize the workers everywhere into union, to educate, to sensitize, and to stand together. Power is never given, it is taken. So let us take the power of the workers together to stand for their rights. We need to stand in solidarity to voice against privatization, to voice against looting of our resources in the world, stand together against chronic capitalism, the control of the few of the world's resources. We need to oppose the stringing space of labor rights for all the workers. We need to stand against exploitation, of violence, of discrimination, of gender-based violence. We need to work together to promote social dialogue, inclusiveness, to protect the rights of all workers. We need to stand together and protect our lands, sea, forest, and all other resources. Let us together in solidarity commit to become the drivers of change. CFTUI stands together with all the workers in the world to organize, to agitate, to claim our power. I work with women workers, I work with women migrant labor. We are together and we need each of your support to raise our voice, to claim for our rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Masal Godfrey Salamatsala, you are welcome. Fiducia, South Africa. Eulogia Familia de Senus, República Dominicana, you will be next.
Amanda! Amanda!
President Ayoba Waba, the Secretary General of ITUC Africa, ITUC, the current presiding officer, Congress, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all. I would like to talk to you on the issue of workers' rights and the social protection in digital platform. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, who are the platform workers? Platform workers are conceptualized as workers who provide paid labor services online and matching platforms. These are platforms that serve as intermediaries that match clients with workers for piecemeal or assignment-based work. What drives platform work? The COVID-19 pandemic affected many countries economically, especially the developing regions, such as Africa. Due to the consequences of the COVID-19, workers were either retrenched or salaries decreased, hence they were unable to sustain their livelihoods. It is therefore for this reason that platform work in South Africa is commonly referred as the Uber drivers, Mr. Driver, Mr. Delivery, and the telemarketers. The world has gone digital due to the advancement of technology, globalization, and the Industrial Revolution. The market for platform work has increased due to online platform, hence the demand. Additionally, trade unions must use channels such as the courts, meetings, and industrial action to promote the regulation of platform workers. Now, what are these issues that affect the platform workers? These are several issues affecting the platform workers, which includes a fair wage, safety, and regulation. And I just want to quote that in South Africa in March this year, the e-hailing drivers across the Gauteng province embarked on a 3-day strike due to the inconduciveness of the working conditions. They handed over a memorandum to the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. And of course, their demand was that the department should intervene in both the classification and regulation of the e-hailing industry. Their cry was simply that drivers are operating at a loss, drivers are exploited. Now, what is the trade union perspective in this regard? The trade unions should have a wake-up call to see that they include platform workers as when they organize. Chairperson, allow me just to mention a few, that one of the interventions that we want to see is that platform workers are given contracts, and then trade unions should produce a perspective or framework that would allow them to assist the platform workers. And of course, the regulation of work day and work hours, and to represent them in negotiations. Chairperson, allow me just to indicate that it is our view that all affiliates in ITUC should engage their governments in countries to put measures in place to come up with legislation to ensure that the platform workers are regulated, including ensuring that they've got social protection. I thank you, and allow me also to welcome the newly elected General Secretary, Comrade Luca. Thank you.
Eulogia Familia from Senus, República Dominicana, and then next will be Yanka Takiva from CITUB, Bulgaria.
Buenos días, señores del Presidium, delegados y delegadas. Este quinto Congreso de la CSI se está desarrollando en el marco de la fecha conmemorativa al Día Internacional de la Lucha contra la Violencia hacia la Mujer. Y hoy, eso será dentro de 4 días, y hoy hemos tenido aquí un ejemplo de gobierno preocupado por la lucha que llevan los trabajadores y las trabajadoras contra la violencia y el acoso en el trabajo. Cuando el gobierno de Australia toma iniciativa para que sea adoptado el convenio 190 de la OIT. Pero la importancia que tiene la adopción del convenio 190 de la OIT para cualquier país y cualquier gobierno no es solamente el ejercicio de la acción dentro del trabajo, sino que esto impacta en la familia y la sociedad, porque cada trabajador o trabajadora es padre, es madre o miembro de la familia y miembro de la sociedad. Y allí donde la educación no contribuye a erradicar la discriminación, a erradicar la violencia para una cultura de paz, el tripartismo contribuye a que haya una educación, un empoderamiento, información en los trabajadores y las trabajadoras para erradicar la violencia. De ahí lo saludable del esfuerzo de los sindicatos de impulsar la ratificación del convenio 190. Y es que, por ejemplo, en República Dominicana, tercer país de América Latina donde se han producido más feminicidios según la cifra, y también América Latina es una región violenta, nuestro sindicato, apoyado también por la CCA, estamos impulsando que el convenio 190 sea ratificado y sea aplicado, porque de esa manera estamos haciendo también un contrato social de derecho, el derecho a la vida, el derecho por la salud y la seguridad de la persona, pero es un contrato por la paz, porque donde hay violencia, ninguno de nuestros derechos humanos tienen tanta validez. El convenio 190 de la OIT es una gran oportunidad para impulsar una base de lucha contra la violencia, no solo laboral, sino también contra la violencia social y la violencia intrafamiliar. De ahí que, compañeros y compañeras, vamos a salir de este Congreso a impulsar la ratificación de ese convenio y decirle al mundo que basta ya de violencia contra las mujeres, contra los trabajadores y las trabajadoras. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Yanka Takiva, CITUB Bulgaria, and then please Dingis, Sister Losi Kosatu, South Africa, please.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Добрый день, дорогие делегаты. Добрый день, дорогие друзья. Я очень рада, что моя конфедерация «Независимый профсоюз Болгарии» определила как делегат 5-й Всемирный конгресс. Я очень рада, что имеет возможность поблагодарить на всех вас за лидерские качества, за то, что мы очень хорошие работаем, за счастье, удачи и успехов наших синдикальных членов. Позвольте мне поблагодарить от имени нашей конфедерации «Независимый профсоюз Болгарии» на Шарон Барон и ее команда для лидерские качества и компетенции и успеха о развитии всемирное профсоюзное движение. Поздравления и към наши австралийски колеги для топлий прием и хорошая организация на Конгресс. Позвольте мне поблагодарить на всех вас, уважаемые делегаты, за профессиональную солидарность, единство для хуманные взаимоотношения помежду ни. Лука, поздравления и желаю успехов. Я думаю, что новый политический документ, а именно социальный договор, дают огромные возможности для укрепления социальной справедливости и социального равенства и повышения и подобрения условий труда. Развитие и укрепление гендерного равенства позволит усиление профсоюзной борьбы для преодоления видов насилия на рабочем месте. Достолчек усилению просьбы о ратификацию Конвенция 190. Уважаемые коллеги, 10 дней тому назад наш независим профсоюз Българии организовал мащабную демонстрацию совместно с коллегами от профсоюз подкрепа, связанные с повышение минимальной работной платы, повышение вознаграждения в общественной сфере образования, здравоохранения, культуры и социальной деятельности, повышение финансирования в общественном секторе. Я уверена, что нас удалось добавить успехов. Я гордится том, что во время пандемии наша конфедерация, мы смогли сохранить рабочие места, 140 тысяч рабочих места. Мы создали новое законодательство по поводу понижения нагрузки учителей и повысили 2022 года 2 раза работные платы. Уважаемые коллеги, уважаемые делегаты, я думаю и уверена, что наша важная цель будет сохранить мир на планете, потому что, вы знаете, на 500 километров от Болгарии имеют война. Мы очень много работаем за повышение нашей компетенции и приобщение наших друзей-мигрантов от Украины. Желаю всех вас мир, удачи, здоровья и успеха. Спасибо.
Spasiba. Thank you. We already have President Losi from COSATU, South Africa. Thank you. Marcel Sante from Burkina Faso, you are next.
Thank you very much, Chair. As I pay respect to the ancestors, the owners of the land we are in, and the people who live in it, I must say first that it is with great pleasure that I stand here and announce that South Africa has ratified Convention 190. Delegates and friends and comrades, we are at a time when our members, their communities and economies have continued to face daunting challenges, decimating their dreams, welfare, and well-being. Therefore, we need an organization that is committed, that is strategic and inclusive. This is why gender parity is relevant and urgent. However, we must be imaginative, deliberate, intentional, and process-led. The African delegation supports the DGB's push for gender parity. However, this must be done process-led and not in a dynamic and weaponized way. So we ask this Congress that it must lay the ground for the amendment of the Constitution towards gender parity. And we believe that the leadership that we will install today will have to ensure that we achieve this in our next Congress. And I speak for all African delegates, and I want to thank you, Chair Amandla. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Marcel Sante, you are welcome. And then next we have Cesar Augusto Elias Garcia from CSP Peru.
Camarade président, camarade secrétaire général, délégués distingués, je suis Marcel Zanté du Burkina Faso, secrétaire général de la Confédération nationale du travail du Burkina CNTB. Je voudrais ici joindre ma voix à celle de mes prédécesseurs pour saluer la secrétaire générale Sharon Barrow et le syndicat ITUC pour l'organisation parfaite de ce 5e congrès, dont le thème est assez éloquent, un nouveau contrat social. La persistance, voire l'aggravation de la crise sécuritaire, de la vie chère, les menaces constantes contre les libertés nous commandent de renforcer nos organisations et de développer la vigilance. Mon pays, le Burkina Faso, vit une crise sécuritaire et politique sans précédent. Et je voudrais, à cette tribune, avant tout propos, avoir une pensée pour les millions de personnes déplacées internes de mon pays, le Burkina, ceux du Mali, du Niger et du monde entier. Parmi ces personnes déplacées, des milliers de travailleurs, notamment des paysans, des éleveurs, des enseignants, des agents de santé, l'administration publique, les collectivités et j'en passe, et même des sociétés minières, qui aujourd'hui n'arrivent pas à exercer leur activité du fait du terrorisme. Je pense que si la CSI, de par sa vision qui suggère un nouveau contrat social, ne doit pas rester insensible à cette situation, qui touche bon nombre de nos États, en Afrique de l'Ouest surtout. J'espère donc qu'elle s'y penchera, rien qu'à travers une rencontre sous-régionale des syndicats des pays concernés, afin de dégager des stratégies syndicales qui seront transmises au gouvernement. Mon second sujet porte sur la protection sociale, qui est un droit reconnu et garanti pour tous et partout. À ce titre, je voudrais encore réaffirmer notre soutien à l'appel de la CSI pour la création d'un fonds mondial pour la protection sociale en faveur des pays à bas revenus, à constituer par l'affectation de 7 à 14% de l'aide publique au développement et également qui pourrait être financé par des fonds assurés par des taxes sur les produits de grande consommation. Avant de terminer mon propos, je voudrais ici féliciter au nom de la CNTB le nouveau secrétaire général élu, camarade Lucas, je ne connais pas le nom de famille, mais je lui souhaite un bon succès pour son mandat. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. Cesar, ahí está. Okay, over to you. Cesar's on the,
Thank you, Kati.
Gracias.
It's already here. Thank you.
Bien. En nombre del Consejo Ejecutivo Nacional de la Confederación Sindical de Trabajadores del Perú, CSP, quiero hacer extensivo un saludo fraterno y solidario a toda la mesa directiva, en especial, digamos, al compañero Luca Vicentini, quien ha sido elegido como nuevo secretario general. Deseándoles los mejores éxitos en esta nueva tarea importante, toda vez que estamos viviendo momentos muy difíciles en el mundo y es importante poder estar unidos, todas las organizaciones sindicales, porque se vienen tiempos muy difíciles y como tal tenemos que estar, digamos, unificados todas las organizaciones sindicales en el mundo. Si bien es cierto, nosotros, es cierto que la defensa de los derechos laborales es una tarea, digamos, muy encomiable y difícil, pero sabemos que el compañero Luca y la nueva junta directiva lo va a hacer de la mejor manera. Y le deseamos los mejores éxitos en esta nueva tarea, digamos, encomiable en la defensa de los derechos sociolaborales de los trabajadores. Y también queremos comprometerlo al compañero Luca a que nos pueda visitar, digamos, en este nuevo congreso que vamos a realizar el mes de marzo, los días 2, 3 y 4, en el Perú, y también para que pueda disfrutar de las bondades que tiene nuestro país, Perú, y pueda visitar, digamos, Machu Picchu, poder, digamos, disfrutar de nuestra comida, digamos, que es la mejor, una de las mejores en el mundo, y poder, digamos, conocer nuestra organización sindical más de cerca. Muchas gracias y éxito por la oportunidad, digamos, que me han dado también. Gracias.
I now invite Vera, FMV Netherlands.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, dear siblings, sisters, and brothers. When I look around this room, I see a lot of people who are at least 2 times my age. Some of you are even 3 times my age. I'm a 20-year-old woman, and I would have loved to see more people like me at this Congress. I'm not here to talk about the necessity of young people in our unions. Several speakers have already said that young people are the future generation. However, most of those who have mentioned this topic are not so young themselves. We are here with a lot of people. How can it be that certain groups are so underrepresented while there is such a big representation of others? Where are the young people? There are only a few here. This is not a fair representation of our countries, of our unions, and of the workers in the workplaces. I'm sure we all agree that this is a problem that needs to be fixed. Some people might say that it is great that we are talking about the importance of including my generation. But is it great, or is it just the bare minimum to talk about this? Since this room is quite full, it means that the ones who are overrepresented might have to make place for others. Because when I'm listening to older people, and mostly old men, talking about the importance of young people, I wonder why there are no young people in their boards or in their delegations. It's easy to say that we need young people, but I don't want you to tell me this. I want you to show me. Act instead of speak. Please let the next Congress be a Congress where I can meet my peers. If this means that you have to take a step back, please do so. And don't be scared, you don't have to lose anything. Bring young people with you. Create more diversion in your boards and in your delegations. Because we are not here for any individual in this room. This is about the future of our unions. If we all actively work on the inclusion of young people, we can win so much. Workers of the world, let everyone unite.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you. Yes, colleagues, the future of our unions lies with the youths. And let me congratulate her because by our records, she's actually the youngest delegate to this Congress. Congratulations, Vera. I will now invite Haladou Munkaila, CNT, Niger.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Camarade Président, camarade Secrétaire Général, cher Sharon, camarades congressistes, je me réjouis de prendre la parole devant cette Assemblée au nom de la Confédération nigérienne du travail CNT, mais aussi des milliers de travailleurs nigériens. Permettez-moi de rendre un hommage mérité au bureau sortant de la CSI, mais en particulier à la secrétaire générale pour d'abord la réussite de ce 5e congrès mondial, mais aussi tous les efforts et sacrifices consentis pour la défense des travailleurs et travailleuses du monde entier. Certes, elle et son adjoint Mamadou Diallo prennent leur retraite syndicale à la fin de ces assises, mais l'histoire retiendra qu'il y a eu des hommes et des femmes qui se sont battus auprès du président Ayuba pendant ce mandat pour un monde meilleur. S'agissant de la déclaration, nous nous alignons derrière ceux qui nous ont précédés pour approuver le nouveau contrat social afin de renforcer le pouvoir des travailleurs à travers effectivement les revendications, à savoir l'amélioration du travail, le respect des droits, l'augmentation des salaires, l'élargissement de la protection sociale, l'égalité en milieu de travail et l'inclusion. Seulement, pour y arriver, la nouvelle équipe de la CSI doit se battre pour libérer l'espace civique et faire respecter les droits fondamentaux des travailleurs, notamment le droit d'organisation et le droit de grève. Car à l'heure actuelle, ces droits souffrent dans beaucoup de pays. Il est aussi important que la CSI, pour les années à venir, réfléchisse sur un mécanisme de protection des défenseurs des travailleurs qui sont les responsables syndicaux, qui sont exposés aux menaces, intimidations et emprisonnements. J'ai une pensée particulière à tous ces responsables syndicaux qui n'ont pas pu faire le déplacement de Melbourne parce qu'ils croupissent dans différentes prisons. Chers camarades, pour renforcer efficacement le pouvoir des travailleurs, il faut qu'il y ait une justice sociale. Et pour ce faire, il faudrait effectivement que nous nous battions contre l'injustice, la malgouvernance, le pillage des ressources naturelles par les multinationales qui ne respectent pas les réglementations nationales et contribuent à la dégradation de l'environnement. Nous devons aussi nous battre contre l'ingérence des grandes puissances dans les affaires intérieures des pays dits sous-développés ou en voie de développement. Parlant des populations autochtones, si l'invasion de l'Ukraine préoccupe le monde, il ne faut pas perdre de vue l'insécurité grandissante dans les pays du Sahel, notamment le Burkina Faso, le Mali et le Niger, mais qui s'étend aujourd'hui sur l'ensemble des pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Car si c'est des milliers de morts et de déplacés que nous enregistrons, sans compter les pertes d'emplois et des centaines de milliers d'enfants qui n'ont plus accès à l'école et à des services de santé, malgré la présence des bases militaires étrangères dans ces pays. Ces bases qui ont d'ailleurs montré leurs limites et ne peuvent plus justifier leur présence en Afrique car elles sont assimilables à une nouvelle forme de force d'occupation de ces pays. Chers camarades, pour le prochain mandat et pour ce nouveau contrat social, il nous faut aller au-delà des discours, il nous faut agir et agir car ensemble nous pouvons et rien ne résiste au temps. En avant pour une lutte de libération et renforcer le pouvoir des travailleurs car c'est la seule force pour le changement dans le monde meilleur. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Haladou.
Oui, Présidente, une minute parce que j'ai un cadeau de notre président d'honneur et de l'ensemble des travailleurs nigériens à remettre à Sharon et à Mamadou Diallo.
Thank you.
Merci.
I will now invite Ronaldo from CESITP Paraguay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ça, c'est les efforts de ton ami. Ok, allez.
Yes, Ronaldo, you have the floor.
Señores componentes de la mesa, compañeros, compañeras, delegados, delegadas, de los países integrantes de nuestra organización de todo el mundo. Hay tanto por decir y tan poco tiempo para lo que tenemos que decir. Sindicatos hermanos, nuestras felicitaciones por Paraguay y los deseos de éxito a Luca y a la nueva directiva. Éxitos, éxitos. Gracias a la CSI por el magnífico quinto Congreso. Gracias Australia, gracias Melbourne por recibirnos como nos recibieron. Hoy, a través mío, la Mesa Sindical Paraguaya de la CSA, con la Central Sindical de Trabajadores del Paraguay, la Central Unitaria de Trabajadores, la CNT, Central Nacional de Trabajadores, la Central Unitaria de Trabajadores presentes en este Congreso, decimos presentes a esta Asamblea apoyando la necesidad urgente de un nuevo contrato social. El mundo ha cambiado, ya no es el mundo de hace 100 años y necesita sí o sí ese nuevo contrato social. Ya no tenemos pretextos para no llevar adelante ese nuevo contrato social. Una seguridad social digna para todos, cese de la corrupción generalizada, la igualdad entre hombres y mujeres, una mejor organización democrática en el mundo, apoyo entre todas para superar las consecuencias del COVID-19. Compañeros, compañeras, nuestros problemas, como hemos visto hasta hoy, como trabajadores y sindicatos, son comunes e iguales en todo el mundo. Y solo juntos los podremos solucionar. El cambio climático nos afecta y afectará sí o sí a todos. El convenio 190 debe ser aprobado por nuestros parlamentos. El racismo desechado, la negociación colectiva vuelve a ser fundamental y la copia que estamos viendo de un mundial debe ser controlado y observado por los trabajadores explotados que tiene. Sin sindicatos libres no hay democracia y la democracia se la gana con luchas. Nadie nos regalará nada y lo demostró el compañero Lula de Brasil hace poco. ¿Cómo es que puede el movimiento sindical organizado ser exitoso? Pero aún así, el mundo empresarial transnacional y explotador sigue manejando el planeta.
Thank you.
Y en especial a sus gobernantes y a la justicia. Esta justicia que persigue a los dirigentes sindicales por enfrentarse a sus deseos de gobernar el mundo y a quedarse con los intereses del pueblo organizado. Agradezco a la CSI, a la CSA, a la OIT, por ser y tener en sus archivos al decano de todo lo que se considera una persecución en el Paraguay. Por eso hoy agradezco y entrego a las autoridades, en especial a Sara, nuestro libro para el archivo de la CSI. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I now invite Janet Armstrong from Australian Congress of Trade Union.
Delegates, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on stolen land today that was never ceded by the Wurundjeri people. Delegates and leaders, there's two things that I'd like to talk about in this short time. Number one, migrant and informal workers. And it's been heartening to hear so many people talking about this group of workers over the last few days. And I'm very happy to see that they continue to be included in the Congress statement. The exploitation of migrant workers is part of a trend driven by employers and governments towards insecure and precarious models of employment. For these workers, it is rarely a choice, but a matter of survival. It is the bosses, not migrant and not informal workers, who are choosing every day to undermine job security, wages, conditions, and bargaining power for all workers. And when workers' rights are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. That's right. So I want to acknowledge the unions and the outgoing ITUC leadership who have led the fight back and led the way in organising migrant workers to ensure that our union movement includes all workers, regardless of their employment status or where they come from. All around the world, migrant workers have borne the brunt of the COVID pandemic, often without access to the safety nets, the health care, the protections that many others were afforded. And I want to take this opportunity to express our solidarity with those workers who have tirelessly kept us fed and kept our public spaces and our workplaces clean and hygienic. The second thing I wanted to talk about today is disability. People living with disability should have the same opportunities to dignity through work as the rest of us. But these workers are too often denied basic human rights and are excluded from activities many of us take for granted. In the draft statement, Congress denounces discrimination in all its forms, commits to fighting for the rights of people living with disability and all those who face racism, prejudice and bigotry, and pledges to support their organisation into unions. If we are serious about that last part, in the coming years, the ITUC and all our unions must find ways to better engage with workers who are living with disability, neurodiversity and chronic health issues to truly support their organisation into our institutions, because we know that representation matters. It is our duty to demonstrate that we value their role in helping to build working-class solidarity and worker power, that there are seats at our tables for them. The new social contract we call for must be reflected within our own institutions. Just as we have done with improving women's representation, I hope that over the coming term between now and next Congress, we can push a little further when it comes to equality for people with disability and, as Vera said, for young people.
Thank you.
And that more workers living with disability will be seen and heard in the formation of the next Congress statement and in the next Congress delegation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Colleagues, we'll have two more speakers before the end of today's session, and we'll then continue tomorrow with all the list of speakers that are already on our website. So let me then invite Adna Mohammed, UND Djibouti, and then lastly, Maria Fernando, CTC Colombia, will end speakers list. So you have the floor, Mohamed.
Merci, Président. Monsieur le Président de la séance, Madame la Secrétaire générale de la CSI, chers camarades congressistes, je vous salue toutes et tous et vous adresse le salut des travailleurs djiboutiens. Chers camarades, cela fait plus de 2 décennies que nous, mouvement syndical libre et indépendant, est confronté au gouvernement de Djibouti qui refuse jusqu'à présent de reconnaître la libre exercice du syndicalisme et sa représentation légale et légitime que nous constituons. Notre calvaire débute en effet en septembre 1995 à l'issue d'une grève générale que nous avions organisée avec l'autre centrale sœur, l'IGTD, avec laquelle nous nous sommes constitués en une entité dénommée intersyndicale UDT-UGTD. Le gouvernement avait en fait institué, sous la pression des institutions de Bretton Woods, le programme d'ajustement structurel en vue de laquelle une loi de finances avait été décrétée qui réduisait de 30 à 40% les salaires de tous les travailleurs djiboutiens, et c'était sans aucune consultation préalable avec les partenaires sociaux, d'où la décision des travailleurs d'aller en grève pour protester contre cet arbitraire. Malgré les menaces du régime, la grève fut un succès suivi par près de 85% des travailleurs. Malheureusement, une répression féroce et musclée durant cette grève a fait que des milliers de travailleurs furent brutalisés jusqu'à chez eux dans leurs domiciles respectifs, séquestrés et torturés par centaines dans des centres de détention provisoires tout aussi insalubres qu'infectés de moustiques. Compte tenu de cette répression sauvage, aveugle, nous avions décidé de suspendre la grève qui avait débuté le 21 septembre 1995, soit 15 jours après, alors que des centaines de travailleurs venaient d'être licenciés à tour de bras par un régime devenu fou furieux, afin que cette folie répressive systématique puisse s'estomper. Un mois plus tard, sur les centaines de travailleurs licenciés, à part le dirigeant de deux centrales et ses affiliés, ainsi que des cadres militants qui avaient constitué l'encadrement de la grève, tous les autres furent réintégrés, non sans leur faire signer au préalable de ne plus faire partie d'un syndicat désormais. Nous en avions évidemment informé à l'époque la CISL à laquelle notre centrale l'UDT était affiliée, ainsi que l'USA et la CISA auxquelles était affiliée l'UGTD, tout en portant des plaintes formelles auprès du BIT et de l'OAT. À plusieurs reprises, des missions de bons offices et des organisations syndicales internationales ainsi que celles du BIT et de l'OAT sont tour à tour venues raisonner le régime, mais en vain. La première mission de contact date de 1998 et la deuxième de 2008, mais le régime demeura inébranlable et toutes les résolutions et recommandations du BIT furent vaines. De plus, il colonna nos centrales syndicales respectives par ces alibis syndicaux qu'il présente à chaque conférence internationale du travail de l'OIT à Genève. Donc, c'est pourquoi nous insistons pour que la CSI s'investisse davantage afin que cette malheureuse affaire puisse avoir un dénouement heureux qui devrait aboutir 1. À la réintégration des dirigeants syndicaux licenciés, 2. À la reconnaissance formelle et officielle des centrales légitimes et légales, 3. Respect et application de toutes les conventions du BIT, notamment celles fondamentales, 4. Solliciter du BIT qu'elle soit plus ferme à l'égard du régime djiboutien. Merci pour votre attention.
Thank you. Thank you. I now invite Maria Fernando, and last on the list is Sari from Disk, Turkey.
Fraternal saludo, compañeros y compañeras. Un caluroso y fraternal saludo a los de la mesa principal, a nuestro nuevo secretario general desde la CTC Colombia. La CCI, quien representa a millones de trabajadores y trabajadoras, hoy tiene como lema de este Congreso un nuevo contrato social. Hoy la clase trabajadora de todo el mundo atravesamos y enfrentamos un momento muy crítico. Por eso la necesidad de este nuevo contrato social. Los cambios mundiales en materia económica, ambiental, han hecho la necesidad de que hoy la CCI diga: es necesario un nuevo contrato social. Un nuevo contrato social incluyente, como decía nuestra compañera Vanessa. Un nuevo contrato social justo, decente, con nuevas políticas que incluyan un mundo de trabajo de igualdad de condiciones. Debemos eliminar barreras legales y administrativas que hoy impiden el crecimiento sindical. Este Congreso debe ser el sitio más alto en discusión y acuerdos en materia laboral. Esta nueva visión de la CSI, que va dirigida a un sindicalismo más participativo, más incluyente, con una mirada en fortalecer, en trabajar, en la formalización del trabajo, que va a permitir fortalecer las organizaciones sindicales. Unidos vamos a hacer grandes cosas, compañeros. Las centrales sindicales de Colombia, la CTC y la Q, hoy un grupo de mujeres están impulsando ratificar el convenio 190. Estamos pidiendo solidaridad y los invitamos a que nos apoyen en esta petición de ratificar el convenio 190 sobre el acoso y la violencia en el trabajo. También a que se adopte la recomendación 206. Solicitamos a todas las organizaciones sindicales aquí presentes a que nos apoyen en esta solicitud. Unidos vamos a ser más fuertes. De nuestra organización sindical hoy estamos impulsando la participación de más mujeres y de más jóvenes, así como lo decía mi compañera, en que participen en las organizaciones sindicales. Mujeres, hoy desde Colombia les decimos: apóyennos en que nos ayuden a ratificar el convenio 190 en Colombia. Unidas somos más fuertes. Muchas gracias, compañeros y compañeras.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Lastly, let me invite Aladdin Distoki to take the floor.
Sayın Başkan, değerli delegeler, hepinizi Türkiye Devrimci İşçi Sendikaları Konfederasyonu DİSK adına içtenlikle selamlıyorum. 22 farklı iş kolunda çalışan 200 bin üyemizin dayanışma dileklerini iletmek istiyorum. Dünyanın farklı ülkelerinden gelen işçiler olarak 5 gündür Avustralya işçi sınıfının misafiri olarak burada pandeminin, iklim krizinin, teknolojinin ve savaşların etkilerini konuşuyoruz. İstihdamı, ücretleri ve sosyal güvenliği tartışıyoruz. Barış, demokrasi ve sosyal adalet mücadelesindeki kararlılığımızı ortaya koyuyoruz. Umarım hepimiz ülkemize, sendikalarımıza ve iş yerlerimize yeni deneyimler, yeni fikirlerle döneceğiz. Öncelikle dün yapılan seçimlerde genel sekreterlik görevine seçilen Luca Vicentini'yi tebrik etmek istiyorum. Onunla beraber görev yapacak yeni sekreterimize de başarılar diliyorum. Luca ile beraber geçtiğimiz yıllarda Avrupa düzeyinde önemli ortak faaliyetlere imza attık. Bu faaliyetlerde küresel düzeyde devam edeceğiz. Ayrıca değişim arzusunu kararlılıkla temsil eden genç bir sendikacı olan Kemal Özkan'ı genel sekreterlik adaylığı sırasında sendikal hareketin evrensel değerlerini başarıyla dile getirerek ITUC'un geleceği için ortaya koyduğu yaklaşım ve programlardan dolayı da tebrik ediyorum. Ayrıca geçtiğimiz hafta İstanbul, Taksim'de gerçekleşen terörist saldırısı sonucunda hayatını kaybeden insanları saygıyla anıyor. Bu barbarca saldırıyı şiddetle kınıyorum. Değerli arkadaşlar, işçiler olarak dünyanın farklı ülkelerinde çok boyutlu bir krizle karşı karşıyayız. Pandemi, iklim krizi, dijitalleşme, savaşlar, yoksulluğu, işsizliği, güvensizliği artırıyor. İşte bu noktada ITUC Kongresi'nin sloganı bize yol gösteriyor. Yeni bir toplumsal sözleşme. Yoksulluğa sürüklenen işçiler için yeni bir toplumsal sözleşmeye ihtiyacımız var. Tüm dünya işçilerin sosyal güvencesinin ortadan kaldırılmasını önlemek için yeni bir toplumsal sözleşmeye ihtiyacımız var. Kongremiz devam ederken dünyanın dört bir yanında işçiler haklarını savunmak için ve geliştirmek için fabrika önlerinde, iş yerlerinde, sokaklarda ve grevlerde mücadele ediyorlar. Yeni bir toplumsal sözleşmeyi hayata geçirmemiz bu mücadelenin başarısı doğrultusunda olacaktır. Bütün dünyada emekçiler benzer tehlikelerle karşı karşıya, dolayısıyla tüm dünya işçileri olarak ortak çözümlere yönelmeliyiz. Öncelikle dijitalleşmenin istihdamı dönüştürdüğü bir çağda teknolojik gelişmelerin emekçiler üzerindeki olumsuz etkilerini ortadan kaldırmak için yeni çözümler üretmeliyiz. Bütün dünya çalışma saatlerini düşürerek işsizlik azaltacak kamusal politikalara öncelik vermeliyiz. Yeni toplumsal sözleşme hedefimiz işçilerin çalışma yaşamındaki karşılığı zorluklar içinde çözümleri de içermelidir. Dünya genelinde yaşanan iş kazalarında 15 saniyede bir işçi hayatını kaybediyor. Bunun durdurulması yani toplumsal sözleşmenin ayrılmaz parçalarından biri olmalıdır. Yeni toplumsal sözleşme temel işçileri sağlıyor. Dünya yerinden oynar, işçiler birlik olsa diyorum. Hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. Sağ olun, var olun.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Colleagues, thank you very much. I will now invite our General Secretary Sharon to try to respond to issues raised by various speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayuba. I think try to respond is the appropriate term. Let me say, though, what a great morning we've had. Solidarity with Australians, a great Prime Minister dedicated to minimum wages, to ending violence in the workplace, particularly gendered violence, to providing safety and prevention from sexual harassment, to indeed having already increased domestic violence and family leave and, of course, paid parental leave. So, great morning. And we know that the commitment by the Australian Prime Minister to introduce the process to ratify C-190 is a great inspiration for the rest of us to go back and continue the fight. But it was interesting that even as we talked about and listened to the commitment from a government leader to these issues, the core issues of our social contract, Africa began the day by reminding us that indeed Africa needs a social contract, that Africa needs these elements of a social contract embedded in a very different development model, and I think that was a stark way to start the day. We heard similar calls from India. We've had, of course, a celebration of the fact that we have more than 50% women at the Congress, but yet a whole range of recognition that we aren't yet there in terms of gender parity, indeed across workforce participation through to equal pay and safety at work, but also the call for more young people, more intergenerational strength. The recognition of, indeed, Indigenous people in our ranks, the call for us to establish a network of Indigenous trade unionists, and I think that's something that we can all support, parallel to the kind of structure we have with our HQR networks, and I would recommend that to the new leadership. Indeed, C-169, it is time we lifted the visibility of that convention again, and of course Guy Ryder, as the outgoing ILO Director General, urged us to do just that earlier in the week. I would like to just say a word about the call in Qatar. Can I say the ITUC, I'm absolutely confident, is not going anywhere after the World Cup. In fact, with the global union federations, I'm not sure our brother from Norway actually knows the structure, but there's a unique social dialogue structure now in Qatar. Where else in the world does the government, with the ILO, now a permanent office with our support, where is there a structure where the government and the ILO reports to the ITUC and the GUFs, who are playing a strong role in that community on progress, and negotiates the next step? And the next step for us is indeed to strengthen the migrant worker support that exists. They're our organisers, GUF organisers, ITUC organisers, and to double or treble them so that they're doing the work in workplaces of just what my brother called for, which of course is in fact the campaign around rights and knowledge of rights. It is support for complaints. It is in fact holding their hands as they use the labour court. So whatever we call the terminology, whatever the structures, there's no doubt that the continuous support of migrant workers is essential, and we want those community liaison officers to be valued, to be funded, and to increase in number. But people recognised, of course, that everywhere there's a cost of living crisis, and that's, again, absolutely front and centre to the nature of the failed economic model referenced in the statement. I was struck by the call for people to perhaps run a campaign of compassion and support for politeness to staff who are short-staffed because of the current environment in a COVID world. Stuart Applebaum and Amazon, I can't say there's many more courageous leaders in the room. With Uni, with the ITF, with Stuart, we have actually seen the beginnings of a massive demand that Amazon must pay, and I thought his call to make sure this doesn't become the dominant model of retail and employment is the right call for everyone. The call for government investment in healthcare, we endorse. The social protection for everybody, a long-standing campaign that we have to deliver on. Taxation reform referenced a couple of times earlier in the week, absolutely. Equal pay, investment in care workers and making sure they're paid appropriately. Palestine, what can I say? Occupation is never acceptable, and we want to see a sovereign state for Palestine. I'm sad indeed that we haven't achieved that on my watch, Shahir, but I know the ITUC and the brothers and sisters will never give up on the freedom for people to choose their own future in Palestine. On platform work, absolutely, like Amazon, it cannot be a model that simply allows employers to informalise the work and to avoid the employment relationship. And I was struck again by the support and the references to OSH, both in terms of a right but also an organising opportunity. And so we began the day with the social contract and ended again with our brother just supporting the implementation of the social contract. So I ask you to understand there's overwhelming support indeed for the Congress statement, and I thank you for that. Ayuba, I have a request, and then it goes back to the morning, the Prime Minister's commitment this morning to indeed the voice of Indigenous Australians, and I would ask you to endorse the words I'm about to read so that we can promote them as our commitment to Indigenous Australians generally and trade unionists in particular. If you let me acknowledge that we meet on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land that's never been ceded, that we express our solidarity with the Torres Strait Islander people and their efforts to see greater climate action to save their island homes. We also express our support for the Uluru Statement from the Heart that the opening address by Senator Pat Dodson demonstrated for us and moved us so deeply. We are proud that Australian unions are supporting the Yes campaign for a constitutionally enshrined Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to the Australian Parliament. They're the words that have been drafted by a man who will indeed present this afternoon, but a leader of the constitutional campaign, Thomas Mayo, and I would ask that you simply endorse them with a round of applause. And we've had a very sad occasion here. Robert, are you here? Robert Borrell? We've had the loss of a very significant woman just in the last 24 hours or so in Argentina, and I think Roberto's just going to ask you for a minute's silence. But
Thank you, Sharon. Lamentablemente queríamos comunicarle el fallecimiento de una gran líder por la lucha por los derechos humanos. A ella le secuestraron 2 hijos, la dictadura cívico-militar de la Argentina en el año 76, y junto con las otras madres iban a reclamar a la sede del gobierno militar en ese momento. Como les decían que no podían reunirse, empezaron a caminar, hicieron una ronda en la pirámide de Plaza de Mayo, y a partir de ahí, hace 45 años, todos los jueves siguen haciendo la misma ronda. Gracias a estas madres de los pañuelos blancos, se condenaron a los genocidas en la República Argentina, con cárcel común. Se los enjuició y se los condenó y fueron a cárcel común. Eve de Bonafini es un emblema de la lucha por los derechos humanos, en contra de la injusticia, en contra del fascismo, es una líder mundial. Por eso le pido a este Congreso un reconocimiento, un fuerte aplauso a Eve de Bonafini. Gracias.
And there you have our solidarity for all the Argentinian brothers and sisters. Now, tonight, we have a treat for you, so just a couple more minutes. Tonight, you're going to get a very special invitation, but I'm not going to actually introduce this to you. I'm going to ask Luke Hilikari, the Trades Hall Secretary, right here in Victoria, to come and invite you to a special house.
Sisters, brothers, comrades, can I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, Wurundjeri people, pay our deep respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This land was stolen, never ceded, always was and always will be Aboriginal land, comrades. Now, before I give the invitation, on behalf of Victorian unions, I think we'd like to give a very warm thank you to our outgoing Secretary Sharon. Sharon would be one of Australia's greatest exports. Her solidarity knows no ends, and she has our deep love and appreciation. So thank you for all your work, comrade. Now, comrades, tonight we would like to invite you to the Victorian Trades Hall Council. Now, across Australia, it is known as the People's Palace. It is one of the oldest functioning trade union buildings in the world. And it looks like one of those old colonial sort of parliaments, really. We're really proud of this building. It came out of the struggle for the 8-hour day. Now, Victoria, we claim that we think we won the 8-hour day, and on April 26, 1856, stonemasons downed tools at Melbourne University. They went to every work site across the city and just collected people and went to the Parliament, and they demanded the 8-hour day. Now, in Melbourne, this was just after the gold rush had hit, and we had a big rebellion at Eureka Stockade where many mining workers were killed. It was a big sense of change in what was a colony back then. And there's been great legacies from this place and this organising hub. This was the place, one of the few places in the world that fought against conscription and won, not once but twice. It is a place where we organised against the Vietnam War. It is a place where we fought for marriage equality. So it's a place that continues to organise. The Statement of the Heart, one of the organising hubs across this nation, will again be the Victorian Trades Hall Council. So we'd like you to come along tonight, have some drinks and celebrate. When you come to the building, you'll notice a few things. We celebrate the number 888. 8 hours work, 8 hours rest, 8 hours recreation. So when you go there, you'll notice 8 columns at the front. You go up the front doors, which will be up 8 steps. You look at the carpets, you'll see the 8s everywhere. So that's something just to take note of. What we're also proud of is the work that's coming out of us, but also from our friends in Copenhagen. We, for the first time, are trying to get a UNESCO bid up to have World Heritage status for some of our great union buildings across the world. It is unbelievable that working people have not been recognised by UNESCO yet. The Victorian Trades Hall Council is one of the buildings we're looking for, but also the beautiful Workers' Museum out of Denmark. We've got the Passeroni in Finland, the Vorut in Belgium, in Canada, the Ukrainian Labour Temple, and in Argentina, the building of the General Confederation of Workers of the Republic of Argentina, and out of United Kingdom, Durham Miners Hall. We think this is a big deal. If we get this up, it says to the rest of the world that the history of working people should not only be respected, it should be honoured, and we should continue to use these buildings as a place to continue to organise. So we look forward to seeing you all tonight, comrades. We'll have a cold beer on for you. We'll have delicious food, and I hope you have a terrific time. Thank you very much.
So there you go, an invitation to the People's House. There is 2 women I want to acknowledge. I think you may hear from them, at least Peggy later today. But Lisetta, are you on the floor? Because we'd love to hear about the campaign for the Trades Hall UNESCO recognition in Copenhagen. Because, okay, Lisette says she's going to tell you something about it tonight. But this, as Luke said, is a campaign around the world to get recognition of the cultural base of activism of trade unions and their architectural homes, and it's a very important, and it's a very warming campaign to think we can fight for our own heritage. So, how do you get there? Well, I understand that there'll be staff who will guide you. If you're outside the centre, I'm looking for Matt or Sharon to tell me that's true, but there will be staff who guide you to the trams and show you how to get there. If you're going under your own steam, then you have the address. It's in Russell Street, the corner of Russell and Victoria Street. It's not very far from here. It's about a 6-minute cab ride, but the trams are free. You just have to get Indeed, you have to turn the corner, so you'll need some guidance. But people will be on the tram stop out near the casino at the end of this building, and I'm sure there'll be people outside the plenary to guide you there. Don't miss it. There are international food trucks, there's free wine and beer and soft drinks, and there's great company with all of you. But Luke, thank you in advance, and we know that the sponsors who've been Nordic Council, the miners and the maritime workers from Australia, on behalf of all of us, thank you to them for sponsoring a great night tonight. See you there.
Thank you, Sharon. So, colleague, we encourage all delegates to try to attend the reception by 19:00 as informed. This brings us to the end of today's session. We are going to adjourn to reconvene tomorrow by 9 a.m. And don't forget the Congress forums by 3 p.m. and also by 6 p.m. And members of General Council should also not forget that the meeting of the General Council will reconvene by 5 p.m. So, colleagues, the meeting for the day is hereby adjourned. Please enjoy your lunch. Thank you very much.